Coffee with Keto Simple. My name is Dustin. I'm so glad you're here. This stream will be starting soon, so grab your coffee, get comfortable, and settle in. We're building a strong and supportive community, so say hello in the chat, ask questions, and feel free to use super chats if there's anything that you want to see highlighted. Thank you for being here and being a part of this journey. Let's keep it positive and respectful as we connect and grow together. I can't wait to get started. Good morning. Happy Sunday. I'm not muted. You can hear me. I am late, but I woke up this morning about 3:30 with a ridiculous headache and slowly trying to recover from that. Did get Chandra out of the door this morning, and we're moving right along. Footloose and fancy free, if you will. Yeah, that was rough. A rough headache, let me tell you. It's still, I just took a little bit more electrolytes and everything trying to make this go away. It was rough. It's gonna throw a wrench into the day, I think. But the feral grandma is here. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. She was 8 hours ago. She was here 8 hours ago. Andy Carnivore was here an hour ago, heading to the state fair. Have a great day, y'all. We are going to the state fair on Tuesday. Tuesday we are going. Again, we'll be doing our live in the morning like we did last week. We'll be going live about 10 o'clock in the morning, give or take, Eastern Standard Time. Rick, Mr. Mopar Charger Mopar Rick, Mr. Quack himself, is under the impression that we changed it so we would be out of the way of the keto cookout with Russ Mitchell. While that is a happy accident, that is not the reason why we did it. And, I don't like being live at the same time as other people. But realistically, the reason why we are going live earlier on Tuesdays in the morning is for the simple fact that we are going to be having people in the house, and it's just going to be difficult to be live with people in the house. So that's what we're doing. But good morning, everybody. Christian DeLorme is in the house. Thank you so much, Christian. I truly appreciate you. Hope you and your lovely wife are doing wonderful. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat, $5 Canadian. Hey, Dustin, I just saw your short on mixes. Do you ship to Canada? I do think they're starting to do something in Canada with Keto Chow. Keto Chow is doing something in Canada. If that's what you're talking about. I think you can get certain Keto Chow things in Canada. I'm just not sure. The issue with that is Canada is requiring everything to be in English and French, which is difficult. And then I think there's also some issues with the amount of potassium that they have in the product. I can't remember. I know that Chris Bear, the owner of Keto Chow, CEO of Keto Chow, talks about that. Yeah, just go to their website, and I think you might be able to find some information about that. You can get there through ketosimple.shop and just click the link. Evelyn is here. Good morning, Evelyn. I'm so glad to see you. Evelyn says, I'll be listening as hot air balloons are flying overhead. I may not be too busy in the chat. Okay. I love hot air balloons. I used to love seeing them fly over when I was a kid. You don't see them as often anymore. You don't see them often anymore like you used to. Sandy Blythe is in the house. Good morning, Sandy. I'm glad that you are here. Evelyn is saying good morning to various people. Yeah, Sandy's asking how it's August 10th already. Oh, it really just does. It flies crazy. Cindy DeManchi's in the house. Good morning, Cindy DeManchi. Oh my goodness. Rick from Twin Brook Acres is in the house. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Oh. Cindy says she was very good, even though she did not cash. My friend had a great time. I'm glad you guys had a good time going to the bowling place wherever it was in Texas. Got out to Tejas and played some bowling balls. Josephine C is in the house. Good morning, Josephine. I'm glad to see your beautiful smiley face today. John Gugahan is here. Mr. Gugahan, glad to see you. Mr. Gugahan says, good morning, everyone. I missed seeing you all last week. It was the first time in a long time that I missed Sunday morning live with you. You were missed, my friend, for sure. I need some coffee. This headache is it's lingering. It's lingering. It was like I woke up and it was like I was having a dream about the headache, like why I had the headache, and it was just the weirdest thing. And I don't wish headaches on people. Headaches and tooth pain. Headaches, tooth pain, that kind of stuff. Because even back pain, you can find like a spot where you can sit and you can feel comfortable. You know what I mean? But like headaches and tooth pain, you just can't really escape it. Mm. Coffee really is wonderful. I appreciate you, coffee. Thank you for being here. Oh my goodness. Patricia Hoffman is in the house. Hey y'all, looking for some sunshine after 2 weeks of rain in South Carolina. It's supposed to rain all week. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry about that. We haven't had much rain at all. We've been having some decent weather. Now it's like starting to creep back up into the 90s again. We got it was like in in the 70s and then the 80s, and now it's back in the 90s, and it's just oppressive hot. Because we got the humidity too. There we go. Mr. Charger Mopar Rick is in the house. Good morning, my friend. Stacy, one of my favorite people on the planet, is here. Her and her wonderful husband, Ken. I hope you guys are feeling fantastic today. I love you both very much. Jeff is in the house. Good morning, everyone. Oh, Josephine with the hearts and the wavy hands. I love it. Yeah, and Evelyn says, good morning, Dustin. Sorry about the headache. Yeah. And Andy's calling me out. Dustin is late. Yeah. Mm. Ugh. Woo. Doing my best today, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My buddy Jeremiah is in the house. Good to see you, Jeremiah. Did you get all the stuff taken care of last night? He was sitting out by the fire last night, relaxing, and sent me some pictures. He was getting rid of a lot of the brush and stuff that they had cleaned out from his yard and all that fun, that fun stuff. Thank you, Cindy. Says, sorry you don't feel well. Yeah, I'm going to do this anyway. Amy is in the house. Amy says, watching from bed still, as you should. As you should. Granny Boo 2 is in the house. Good morning, Granny. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you very much. Oh, my goodness. Andy says, I'm getting ready to walk my last day in Colorado. I'll be home by midnight tonight. Well, I'm hoping everything is going well. Colorado is gorgeous. I love Colorado. It's one of those places like I can't drive in Colorado, and I know we've talked about this before. When we go out there, I can't drive when I'm out there because I'm looking at mountains and we're going to crash. So I have to be a passenger princess in Colorado. You know how it is. All you wonderful people saying hello. Sherry Lynn's in the house. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry about that. All this medicine, the ibuprofen and everything, and not sleeping well, I guess. But good morning, Sherry. Thank you for being here. I'm at work, but we'll be listening. Hashtag life at Kohl's. Kohl's. Kohl's is one of my favorite places to use the bathroom. I don't know over years if you have collected, most of us should have collected places they like to go to the bathroom, like quiet places that are clean. Like there's obviously places you don't want to go. Like you don't want to go to you don't want to have to go to the bathroom at a punk rock club or some, place like that. But like Kohl's, Target, there's just places where the bathrooms are clean and you're like, okay, I can do that. But Kohl's has got the mood lighting. I don't know what it is. It's like I don't know. You guys think I'm nuts, but yeah, Kohl's like because whenever we end up going to Kohl's, we're there forever. We usually go there around like Christmas time. We used to go a lot back to school time, but now that we don't really have to handle that too much. We go around Christmas time and we're buying gifts for people, obviously, clothes and stuff for the kids and the granddaughter and all that stuff. And inevitably, you got to go to the bathroom, but it's a good place to go. It's a good place to go. Let me know where your go-to, like if you're out and about, like everyone loves Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's is one of the best places to go to the bathroom on the highway. Let me know in the comments where you like to go. Jeff is doing an alternate day fasting this week, lost about 6 pounds. I love it. I need to get back into that. Becky's in the house. Good morning, Becky. So very glad to see you. And Alexis Jones, good morning, dear. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so very much. I'm glad to see your smiley face. There's Courtney. Courtney knows what I'm talking about punk rock clubs. You don't want to go poop at a punk rock club. That's the worst place to go. Usually don't even have a door. You're just like looking right at, you know what I mean? It's just like, ooh, nope, not the place to go. Oh my goodness. All you wonderful people in here hanging out with me today. I truly appreciate it. Carl is in the house, hoping coffee will kill the headache, kill my headache. Yeah, I'm hoping that it helps me. Charlie's in the house. Good morning, Dustin. Just finished walking the dog, listening in while I head out for kettlebell class. Look at that. Charlie's getting jacked. And John said, I made 3-ingredient protein bagels with cottage cheese yesterday, enjoying one now with onions, lox, and cream cheese. So good. That sounds fantastic. Evelyn agrees. And Sandy says, sorry, your head hurts, Dustin. Earaches are bad as well. Oh, yeah. I remember when I was in my 20s. I remember going to work. I had this really bad earache. And I went to the doctor and they gave me some medicine, but I was at that, like that time and place in my life where I'm like, I don't miss work. I go to work no matter what. And I went to work with this ridiculous earache. And I remember the pain was so bad. I was on some medication and I was like, hey guys, because I drove a forklift a lot. I was like a forklift driver. And I'm like, hey, I can't drive this forklift tonight. I'm on this medication. And I was like working this machine and finally the whatever it was popped or whatever. And like it was like such a relief. And you could feel it dripping. It was gross, but it was such a relief. Yeah, headaches, tooth pain, and earaches. They're all awful. Yeah. So terrible. Amy said I had to get up and free the 4 cat monsters so they don't eat me alive. They will. And Patricia's asking when the clan is moving in. Hopefully soon. I know I haven't gotten everything out of this office. I'm still in this office. I'm just like, I just don't want to let go. And I know we've got a lot going on, but they also haven't really come over to help do anything either. So I don't know what's going on. And I guess at last time they hadn't even told them that they were moving out. So I was like, well, that's pretty messed up. Like they're just going to leave them high and dry because their whole situation over there, like it's just it's the situation over there is like you've got, let's see, three, four, five, 9 people living in a house. 9 people living in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bath. It's rough. It's rough. Cindy is back. She had to reboot her PC. Sherry Watkins is in the house. Good morning, Sherry. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, all. Long time since I popped in. Watching from bed also. Me remodeling my home has me displaced, and time is always getting away from me, as I seemingly does for us all. 100%. 100%. It's just so difficult. And Becky says, sorry, you're not feeling. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, it's just, oh man, I hate headaches. They're the worst. And Sherry's laughing at me about the Kohl's restroom. Yeah, Kohl's restrooms. Like, just know, like, there's, like when you go to, like, when you're out and about, like, if you go to Walmart, okay? Walmart has the bathrooms up front. And then they also back in the back, like near the electronics department, they typically have those back restrooms. And that's like back where like layaway used to be, or sometimes layaway is in the Christmas time or whatever. Those restrooms are really good because they're quiet. They're quiet, they're cool. You know what I mean? You don't want to poop in the heat. You know what I mean? It's just like relaxing. And it's like nobody's really coming in there because nobody really thinks about them being back there. Yeah. Booby Goats is in the house. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, Aaron. I appreciate you. I'm glad to see your smiley face today. Carl says, you ain't kidding. Bathrooms at punk rock clubs are scary. Yeah. Amy says, my husband always has to go to the bathroom the minute we go to Lowe's. Lowe's is another good one. But Lowe's, I find like the way that like their construction, like you don't have good internet signal in there, so you gotta like hurry up because you're gonna be like left behind. You don't know what's going on. Evelyn is drinking caramel apple coffee, and I put in my daily minerals, which makes it taste a little salty. Salty caramel apple coffee, delicious. Lisa is in the house. Good morning, Lisa. Thank you so much. Sherry says when she travels, Cracker Barrel is her go-to for bathrooms. I don't know if I've ever used a bathroom at Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel is one of those places that's like either you're eating or you're trying to get through that claustrophobic, everything's too close together gift shop. It's like it's too close together. I don't like it. It just messes with me. Sherry says you got me wanting to check out Kohl's restrooms. Well, like I mean, that's just the way the Kohl's feels here. It's like they've got like it's just like the bathrooms are like they got the mood lighting, they're not overly bright. Because that's something that Shannon and I fight about all the time. Like in our bathroom, we've got the 2 sets of lights. You got like the big wall mirror with the lights above it with like 10 lights. They're like this big and they're so bright, you're like staring at the sun. And then like you've got like what would be like the exhaust fan light, and that's what I like to use. So I don't turn on the big ones. I'm just like everything's got to be just chill. Like I'm be good with like blackout curtains and just minimal light. And she was like, you could just sit in the dark if you. I'm like, I would, yes, totally sit in the dark most of the time if I could get away with it. Just things that are overly bright just drive me nuts. There's no such thing, John, as a good porta potty. He goes, how about a good porta potty? There's no such thing as a good porta potty. I do tell you though, like when you go to like a wedding and they rent those like porta potty like trailers, that's pretty cool. But I'm always afraid like I'm gonna drop something in there because it's like airplane bathrooms, which I've never been on an airplane bathroom either. So I've never used I've never once used an airplane. I've never even gone number one in an airplane bathroom. I'm always too weirded out just to get up. And I've never really been on a flight that was like long enough to really warrant me to have to use it. Most like, I think the longest flight I've ever been on was like 4 hours, maybe 5 hours. So I was able to just to kind of push through. So I think the longest flight I think I've been on is from LAX. We took off in LA. We landed in Phoenix, but we didn't get off the plane. We just landed in Phoenix, picked up some passengers, and then we took off again and came home. So from LA to Phoenix to Indianapolis. That's the longest flight I've ever been on. But I've flown from Indy to Chicago, Chicago to Alabama. I've flown from Indy to Georgia, then Georgia to Texas, from Alabama to Texas. I've flown from Indy to Colorado. Let's see. I've flown into Austin. I've flown into Love Field in Dallas. McCarran Airport in Las Vegas, Sky Harbor in Phoenix. I've only flown into Midway. Never flown into O'Hare in Chicago. Jerry's in the house. She says, "Good morning, everyone. The first words I just heard was Dustin saying Kohl's is my favorite place to go to the bathroom, and honestly thought I was still sleeping in a dream." You never know what I'm going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you life. I'm going to talk about life, and life is not always pretty, but knowing the best place to go to the bathroom is a good thing to know in life, because if you understand how life goes, we're all going to be in a situation where we have to go and we got to go right now. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And just understanding like where the best places to go. Going and stopping at like rest areas are like the worst because they're always wet, like weirdly wet. Like the floors are soaking wet for some reason. And like the stalls are real narrow for like, I don't know why they're so narrow. They're just super duper narrow, and I don't know why, but they are, and that's just what we have. So yeah, I would rather like just that's like, you start seeing those Buc-ee's signs. You're like, can I make it 4 hours? I don't know, but yeah, that's real life. It's real life. Jerry's calling Aaron out in her videos. Oh, yesterday at Woodman's. I love Woodman's. Woodman's is one of my favorite places to go. You can always find some good stuff there. Evelyn said, Jerry, I showed you blah, 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 your new profile pic on Facebook to my man. My man. And he agreed that your man looks like Stan Lee. Uh-oh. Let's see. Jeremiah said, ended up sleeping in the recliner so I could keep an eye on the fire. Most everything is gone except the big log, and it's still smoldering. All right. Jerry says, poop in the heat. You're killing me. Yeah, no one wants to poop. You don't want to be sweaty and pooping. You don't want that. You just don't. Yeah, I need to take some more. I don't think I have any more in this. I don't. What do I got in here? It's empty. I think I do have. I think I do have a bag of electrolytes in here. Some of them are way over there, though. I usually have a bunch of stuff in here. Bottle of water. I don't remember buying this. Shitter will be glad to see this because shit's her favorite flavor. I don't remember buying this, but I mean, that doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, I've got Element. I've got these things here. I've got classic cake donut, cereal. I've got all the things in here, I guess. So I need to, yeah, I probably need to make myself an electrolyte drink. Oh my goodness. Oh, Andy says catching up now. I'm 17 minutes behind. That's okay. I'm like an hour behind today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like so far behind. And John, Mr. Gugahan says, Dustin, you seem to put a lot of thought into pooping. It is an important thing. Like you can't just poop anywhere. Like you could like as a guy, you can just kind of like go number one wherever you need to. It's not as big a deal. But especially when you're a big guy, and I don't think no matter what happens in my life, I'm always going to be a big guy. And it's just a thing you have to think about. I've had to think about it for so long. When I was in like 400-pound range, I've talked about this before. Like I had to make sure I utilize certain stalls at work. I couldn't use the bathroom downstairs in my house. So it's one of those things that's ingrained in me to keep tally of where is a good place to go and where not to go, because I don't want to get stuck somewhere. Now, this happened to me in Georgia. We were at some gas station place in Georgia, and we were on our way back from Florida, I'm pretty sure, like the first time we went to Disney. And I'm still 400 pounds, 400 plus pounds. And I get to this stall and I do my business, and then I'm trying to clean up and get ready to go. And it doesn't work. I can't reach. So thankfully, and this is how you know that I'm totally open to being vulnerable, totally open to be honest and real with all of you. And I'm not pulling any punches, because I had to like pull my pants up a little bit, wait for it to empty out, and then switch stalls to one that was like a little wider so I could handle the rest of my business, clean up, and leave. Because the stall that I was in, I couldn't reach. And I don't know if any of you have been in situations like that or anything compromising like that in a public setting. I was dreading somebody coming in, because what am I going to do? Somebody comes in, why are you butt naked, pants down, walking between stalls? This is real. This is real life. This is something that happened to me. And again, this is the things that people who have never been big have no idea about. And that's why I get so upset when people start picking on big people. If you've not been big and you don't understand what it's like to be big, and you don't understand, like, it's like being big is like being poor. If you've never been truly poor, then you don't understand what it takes to be poor. Like when you're poor, and this does lead into some of the things that I want to talk about today. When you're poor and you don't have a bank account, and you may not have a car, and you live in a place where you don't have access to a grocery store, and you have to work at a crappy job that you don't necessarily want to work at, but you have to take what you can get. You're working wherever you can get. And then they're paying you in a check because you don't have anywhere for them to direct deposit it. And then you have to take that to a check cashing place. Hopefully you can get there sometime. That's why most of them are 24 hours, because people who work all the time and utilize those places don't really do it during normal business hours. They're not available during normal business hours, and they're going to take at least 1% of your entire paycheck. And then you got to take that cash, and then you've got to go and you've got to put that on a card, maybe. Because if you don't put it on a card, like a prepaid card, then all of your bills have to be paid at grocery stores. You have to pay them with money orders. All that costs money. So the poor tax is ridiculous, and people do not understand that. Like, think about, like, if you don't have a car, how do you go to the grocery store and buy a week's worth of groceries and carry that home if you've got 4 kids or whatever it is? And people are like, you shouldn't have had 4 kids. Get out of here. Being poor is hard. I mean, I grew up poor and I saw my mom struggle. And I mean, we luckily always had a car, but you know, my mom was always stressed out. Probably why she's stressed out and died at 59. But anyway, that's just like the whole thing. Like, people don't understand, like, being big. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's one of the ways to get me upset, like, way off the jump. And people are saying hello to everybody. There we go, Mr. Brian. Brian Dish is in the house. Good morning. Lexus Jones says, guys, my sister's situation is getting worse. Please continue to pray for us both. We will keep you in our thoughts, dear. And I'm not sure if I understand what the situation is. You don't necessarily have to outline that here just for me or anybody else if you don't choose to. But just know that we care about you and we care about your sister. And whatever it is, hopefully things get better. And I know I want to say that I remember you mentioning something on a like one of maybe Thomas's live a couple of weeks ago about something going on with her, but I can't necessarily remember what it was. And my apologies on that. And Sherry says she loves the gift shop. The gift shop is cool, but it's so tightly packed. And like, if you get there and there's like people everywhere, it's just like, I got no thanks. No thanks. And Cindy says she had a great time, just did not make it to cash. Had a terrible day of bowling Wednesday, then a great day on Thursday. Went from 33rd place Wednesday to 14th after Thursday. That's amazing. That's pretty awesome. I'm a terrible bowler, but I'm a terrible bowler. I usually bowl maybe 120, 100, 120, something like that. I mean, I don't know necessarily what's the difference between like a good bowler and like a bad bowler, but I'm not that great of a bowler. Brian says, Cindy, at least you didn't finish last. Either you're first or you're last. And Cindy says, yes, Lisa, I had a great time. Also got to see a friend I used to work with that lives in Dallas. It had been 2 years since I had seen her. Well, that's very nice. And then Cindy says, you just have to wait for my videos. And everybody is giving love to Lexus and her sister. Sherry, Nevada Pup. Good Sunday morning, friends. I have an early swimmy client this morning, so needed to get up early. Coffee is brewing. Oh my goodness. Coffee, coffee, coffee. And Brian, no, this is still the old office. Brian's asking if this is the new office. It is still the old office. Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to get out of here. I mean, I've started cleaning things up and getting things moved around. I just got to ish. The procrastination is real, and the kids aren't really like they don't really seem to be chomping at the bit to get here either. So I don't really know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. I mean, you would think that they were really wanting to get here and move in and not have to, and be saving some money. They'd be doing everything they could to help get themselves here, but yet they have not. So I don't know really what's going on. So we'll see. We'll see, I guess. Andy says, I've walked 10,000 steps the past 7 days I've been here, so I thought I'd be derailed, but it's all good. The humidity is low, and the difference between lows and highs here is 50 degrees walking at 5:30. OMG. Jeff says, when you're traveling in an RV, traveling, all your bathroom needs are solved. Yeah, but I mean, if that's like, I mean, I know like I've had friends and I know a lot of touring musicians and stuff that are on like tour buses, and none of them go number two in the bus. They always stop and go number two as like a rest stop, truck stops, that kind of stuff. They don't use the bus. So I would figure they seem like, but I guess if you're parked in an RV and you're like at a campground, then you've got it covered. But yeah, Evelyn says you need to be eating those keto chows. Yeah. I've got a lot of keto chow. Like I just don't eat it that often. I love it. It's just not something that I think about all the time. It's because okay, so realistically what it comes down for me is my blender is a bitch to clean. And I could and I like hot keto chow. I like it hot, and I could boil what. But if I put boiling water in my blender, it's going to be one, a pain to clean, and two, it's going to crack the crap out of it and break it. And I don't want to spend another $50 on one. I need to one of these days, hopefully, come up with some cash to buy a Vitamix with the steel container, so I can pour boiling water right into the Vitamix and mix up my hot keto chow and be done with it. And it's a lot easier to clean that than it is to try to clean the the blender. Like the container's hard to clean because it's got all these weird crevices in it, and then you got to pull like the blade out. The blade is hard to clean. The lid is hard to clean. I think if I had a situation where it was a lot easier to clean, I would have it a lot more. Lisa says, Andy, I'm loving all this walking. I so needed this. Yeah. I'm waiting for it to cool down so we can do that stuff. Cindy says, I will say with our eBay store on vacation, we got 7 orders that I have to pack up and mail out tomorrow. Good job. Everyone's like, oh my. Yeah, and Rick says, I have never experienced this. You are right. I have no idea. And I think, I mean, someone like Rick, who's been thin their entire life, I mean, there may be things that I mean, being thin, there's things that you've had to deal with that I've never had to deal with. I was super skinny when I was a kid. When I was very young, I was very, very skinny, but I just don't remember it as much. I mean, most of my memories are being heavy. So, yeah. And Lisa says, that's what we love about you. Keep it real. That's the only thing we can do. I mean, you're tall, so I mean, Rick has that height thing. He's what, 6'6", something like that. So you've got that going for you. But I mean, even that's a little different. And Rick knows all about being poor. And Jerry says the cure for my headaches is either a slam a shot of keto chow minerals or 2 packages of salty with 4 ounces of water. It's super salty, but your headache is gone fast. Yeah, that's something that I need. Yeah. Well, see, even Rick, like you going on a bicycle, but you're shopping for one. Think about like a single mother of two, one, two, three, four, maybe more kids. And then you've got to figure a way to, then you got to have someone watch them. Where does that money come from? Like you have like, so like that was one thing that I wanted for our kids when we started watching our granddaughter. For as long as we've watched her, if they would have put back the average cost of daycare, I'm going to Google this just to make sure I'm not completely crazy. So it says the average weekly cost of one child in daycare varies significantly by age, but it's in a range of 150 to 350. So I was going to say $200. If they would have, so we've had her really since she was really, we've been watching her since um we had her a lot. Well, she went to daycare a couple of days a week before I was not having a job. and that was in 2021. So 2020, she was 2, she's 7. So I mean, like 5, say 5 years. So you say 5 years, 5 years. So 200 a week times 52 times 5 is $52,000. If they would have saved that, they would have been able to put a down payment on the house. But, that's just a thing. And I mean, I know that that's not always easy to do, but it's what it is. And Evelyn says, I understand I have gone without food in order to feed my children before. Yeah. I know a lot. I mean, my mom, so like that's where like the ultra processed food comes from. Like that's what scares me about the Maha movement. And I know a lot of people are super stoked about this movement. And there's things about it that just drive me insane. Like, it's easy to say that people on food stamps or SNAP benefits or whatever shouldn't be able to buy soda, candy, and things. And then they're going to be wanting to say, well, we need to get rid of the ultra processed foods. You're dealing with people who have the bare minimum. We're talking like, right, I mean, we're talking, mac and cheese for 60 cents a box in the store brand. You're talking ramen noodles for 30 cents a package. You're talking rice for dollars like $1 per 5 pounds or whatever it is of rice. But you also have to take into consideration the time constraints that somebody who is impoverished has to take care of. So if you are taking public transit, especially in a place like Indianapolis where public transit is a nightmare, public transit here, like I looked at one point, because I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee and I was driving 22 miles each way to work. I was getting about 20 miles per gallon. So I was going through about a gallon. I was going over a gallon each way to work. At the time, I was really struggling because gas was like $4 a gallon at the time. And I was really struggling. And I was like, well, how much does a bus pass cost? But then I was looking at the bus. It would have taken me 3 hours to get to work each day. I would have saved a significant amount of money. I wouldn't be paying car insurance. I wouldn't have a car payment if I would have got rid of my car. Or I would still have kept that but I would have been paying significantly less in gas. But then you're looking at 2 to 3 hours on a bus. And then on the way home, it would have been 2 or 3 hours. But then where they would have dropped me off, I would have had a like over a mile walk through not a great neighborhood. Because I lived like on the edge I lived on the edge of a not so great neighborhood for a long time. So like where I lived wasn't that bad, but you had to go through some not so great places to get there. So that being said, like, or you're walking a mile in the dark, just to save money. That's difficult. Now, imagine doing that with kids. Imagine doing that with all that stuff. And I think we lose sight of the privilege that we have. And I'm not one to talk about privilege very much, but I think that once you've gotten to a certain point financially, there's privileges that you don't even think about. Like I have at my disposal, the way that I live now, I have, 2 Walmarts that I can go to relatively simply. 2 Walmarts that I choose to go to. There are 3 Aldi that I can go to that are about equidistant. There are 2 Costco that I can go to that are relatively equidistant. There is a Meijer. They're getting ready to open another Meijer even closer to me than anywhere else. The Meijer will be closer to me than any other grocery store that we have right now. I can, so I have no issues going to any of these stores. Like even the Sam's Club that I have a membership to is not that far. It's just out of the way, and I don't take the time to go. But I have the luxury to shop for sales. I can buy in bulk. We have 3 freezers. We have the freezer attached to our refrigerator in the house. Then we have 2 freezers in the garage because we eat a lot of meat, and I try to buy things at a discounted rate. But that's a luxury that people that are in poverty do not have. And I understand that, we know a lot of that is coming from the taxpayers, and I get that. But I've been there. And I would rather do whatever it takes to make their life a little bit easier. I would rather take money, tax money from other places that don't need it and give it to people who truly need it. And I know that may not be popular. People are like, this is my tax money. I don't want my tax money going to soda. I get it. I do. I don't want people buying soda and candy and all these things. I don't want that. I don't think they should want to. But I also don't think it's our place to tell them they can't. I think we should be doing things to educate. We should be doing everything in our power to make sure that the food culture itself changes. Because if you start going in and changing things and making life even harder for somebody who already has it pretty rough, and you can and we can argue back and forth all day long about the people who don't work, who do work, whatever, that's not what I'm worried about, because those percentages are inconsequential. We're talking about the people who are working two jobs, the people who are struggling to raise kids, who don't have the means to do whatever they need to do. Why are we making it harder for them? And I understand that, oh, you shouldn't be drinking soda. I don't care, because I don't think that that's necessarily what's causing the problems here. We have an obesity epidemic in this country, but it's not just soda. It's not just soda. It's the entire way we go about food. The entire food culture in this country is causing us a slow, well, maybe not so slow demise. And I just don't think that, and there's a lot of things about the Maha movement that drive me insane, because I was excited at first to hear that we have somebody coming in who's going to be trying to change policies, but all I've seen thus far is just things that make him sound nuts. And I have gone through and I've got a lot of different things about the what's going on. So I mean, obviously, like the snap thing is a hot button issue. I've posted about it on my Facebook, and people are upset. We don't agree. That's fine. We don't have to agree, but these are my thoughts. These are how I look at it, and coming from a place of poverty. And I feel that just because I had it rough growing up, or just because, Chandra went in and put a detailed thing in there about, like, her going through school, maxing out loans, working a $9 an hour job, raising three kids by herself, and all these things. Just because I had it hard doesn't mean somebody else needs to have it hard too. We should be making things easier for each other. Isn't that the point of this community in the beginning? This community, to me, is supposed to make life for everybody else coming after us easier. We've put in the hard work. We've done the due diligence trying to fix ourselves so that those who follow in our footsteps don't have to struggle the way that we did. Whether it's obesity, whether it's poverty, whether it's SNAP benefits, I don't care if, I mean, I get it, taxes pay for that. But if I'm going to be taxed, I want it to go and make someone's life easier. Because a big, huge part of what we're taxed on goes to all kinds of things that I don't agree with. War, all these things that goes to just so much stuff, making politicians billionaires on $100,000 a year salary. That's nuts. I would rather it go to somebody who is poor to help them struggle less. Because no matter what, we're paying taxes. It doesn't matter. We're always going to pay taxes. We're almost always going to pay the same rate of taxes. It doesn't matter. I would rather, if we have to pay taxes, for those taxes to go to people so their lives are less difficult. So hopefully, maybe, just maybe, we can help them get out of being impoverished. Because when you are in poverty, It's so hard to get out. And one of the things that I get so irritated about is, so you take just Shannon as an example. You're on social benefits, you're going through school, you're in college, you're trying to make it, you're trying to do these things, you're working these long hour low pay jobs just to try to get through. And then as soon as you get that first job, before you even get that first paycheck, you get that first job. Now you've got a job making X dollars an hour, which is well above what you would qualify for all of these benefits, and your kids are getting all these things that they need, and and as soon as that just stops, it's just cut off right at the knees. So realistically, you've jumped out of the pot and right into the fire. So like we're kneecapping people who want to try to do better. People want to go to school. I don't think anybody truly wants to not do anything. Now, there's always going to be exception to that rule. There's always going to be people who don't want to work. That's human. That's human. But I think that the majority of people want to be contributors to society. Most people want to help. I see that every day in these groups, this community that we have, hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of you out there every day in chats, watching lives, sharing your journeys, going on lives, trying to make it easier for everybody else. And that's what we should be doing. And I want people to be healthy, but we have to be smart and systematic about it. And I don't think we should be doing it in a way that makes people resentful, that makes people less likely to want to try to make things better. And that's just how I see things. Like if I was in that situation, like, well, now you can't have soda. Well, what am I even doing here then? You know, it's like so irritating. So like I'm gonna go through here and look at some of these things because I've got a whole bunch of outline things that they're working on and all this stuff. And like so much of this stuff, it almost seems like they're going after just to be polarizing. So, you know, like there's the Maha Commission established the executive order on February 13th, 2025, chaired by RFK Jr. to investigate childhood chronic disease causes, including poor diet, environmental toxins, stress, over medication, medicalization, and the first report released on May 22nd, 2025. I was listening to an episode of a podcast talking about just how polluted our ground is, or polluted our water is. There's arsenic in the ground, there's lead in the ground from decades of leaded gasoline. And the fact that the companies knew that leaded gasoline was a health risk to us. Companies knew that leaded gasoline was a health hazard to humans. They went ahead and utilized leaded gasoline, even though there were other alternatives, for the simple fact that they couldn't patent or make money from the other alternatives. So they decided for profits that they would utilize leaded gasoline. That's all the oil companies, because every car ran on leaded gasoline in the 50s, 60s, 70s, in through, I think, maybe the early 2000s, maybe the late 90s. I remember being in cars and leaded or unleaded. Leaded, we rode around in my mom's friend's car that took leaded gasoline. I don't remember if my mom's car early on took unleaded gasoline or not, but I remember being in cars that took leaded gasoline. And I'm sure a lot of you do too. There's a lot out there that needs to be taken care of. Like, are we talking about water fluorization, the fluoride in water, right? So fluoride should be topical. So it may be something that happens at the dentist once, twice a year. They put a little fluoride treatment on your teeth. Cool. Maybe even in your toothpaste. Fine, because you're not really swallowing that. The problem with the fluoride is putting in the drinking water, because they figured, well, if having it in, on your teeth a little bit, then people who don't get to go to the dentist, they can just have fluoride all the time. It'll help them. But that's not how this works. They've been talking about doing that with statins too. They've been talking about they've actually in the past actually tried to pass bills to put statins in the water. Because if they're already putting statins, everybody on statins anyway, just put it in the drinking water. Could you imagine the ramifications? Now you have to take a step back and go, okay, part of that is people wanting to do the right thing. People think they're doing the right thing, but most atrocities are paved by doing the right thing, right? You have to look at, is it for profit? Is it, there's always a profit standard. Somebody in the company is like, yeah, profits. And then the other people are like, well, we should do it. That's the right thing to do. And then vaccination policy changes, community health initiatives. Now, I'm not trying to debate whether or not these things are, because I'm not an expert in these things, so I'm not here to argue those things. But out of the gate, getting onto vaccinations, that's a very polarizing subject. Coming out, he's talking about chemtrails. Chemtrails are akin to Bigfoot and alien abduction. Let's be real. Most people look at things like chemtrails as in the same thing. Like, you're going to watch an episode about Bigfoot, then the next episode is going to be about chemtrails. That's how they look at it. So we need to come at this and not sound insane. I don't know. I don't know. Is there a way? Like, I kind of look at carnivore the same way. Like, if you're coming at people who are vegan and vegetarian, or people who just lightly eat meat or just have been indoctrinated over the centuries to not eat as much meat because they're terrified of it. And you're like, all you need to do is eat meat and you'll be fine. People aren't going to take to that very much because it's completely backwards from everything they've ever been taught. And then we're on top of it, we're saying, well, plants are trying to kill you. Whether or not that's true isn't the point. Sugar is poison. Whether it's true isn't the point. We didn't get here overnight. We didn't get to where we are overnight. We didn't get to this problem overnight. This problem started in 1900, give or take. So we're 125 years into this. We're not going to fix it overnight by scaring people and saying plants are trying to kill you, because they've just spent the last 125 years being told that plants, fruits, vegetables, and, limited meat is the way to go. And again, it's far easier to fool someone than it is to get them to realize or acknowledge the fact that they have been fooled. So this is, this just bothers me. You know what I mean? Like, I see this and it's just like, it's almost like half of the people see what the Maha movement is doing as the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then the other half looks at it as like a big, gigantic joke. I think it's probably somewhere in there. There's good ideas in there. And some of it we should just be like shutting up about because it doesn't do us any good. How do we move things forward? By trying to get everybody on the same page. How do we get everybody on the same page? Leave the crazy stuff till the end. The chemtrails and all that stuff. Yeah, the water, fluoride in the water, that's one of those things we should be taking care of. But that's like later, like, the food additives, the dyes and things. We have to be honest. We have to be open. But I think we're going about it in a sensationalized manner that doesn't do us any benefits. Because I look and I see this, and I see it from the perspective of the people who think it's crazy. And while I understand why exactly they see it that way, I also think it's crazy that they're going about it in the order in which they're doing it. We should be, starting with education. How do we start looking at guidelines? How do we start looking at talking about cholesterol? How do we start talking about meat not being so bad? How do we start doing all these things? I just feel we need to be working to get people on our side and not just cutting benefits to people, then just talking about chemtrails. There's all these things that we're doing that do not help us. And you have to understand that while traditional media may be dying, it still has a tight grip on the way people look at stuff. And people are going to meme all these things and they're going to throw this out, or they're going to get people looking at it and they're going to be like, yep, that does sound insane, because it does sound insane. Even when I first started looking into low carb in 2016, it didn't make sense. I remember hearing, remember people talking about Atkins, and I'm like, man, that sounds awesome. I'd love to lose weight, but I sure don't want a heart attack. Because that's exactly what I thought. I was like, meat, saturated fat causes blocked arteries. And that's what everybody thinks. And you can't just force that out of people. You have to slowly kind of start massaging that into people. And I think that's what our community kind of does to some degree, because people in our lives see our changes, they see our transformations, they see how we are living better, losing weight, and all these things. And in the beginning, I was very gung ho. You got to be keto, got to be keto. At this point, I don't care. I don't care what you eat, as long as we can get lowering sugars, backing away from ultra processed foods, getting people to where they're eating like we did 100, 200 years ago with stews, like, meat, potatoes, and carrots and all these things. And you know, we ate a lot of that kind of stuff, onions and just whole food, single ingredient things going into a pot and simmering it. But there was somebody at home for hours who could do that. Or you just put it into a crock pot, leave and go home, leave, go to work for all day and come back and the crock pot's good to go. But over time, it's become so much easier to pop into a drive-through, pick up, a box of macaroni and cheese or whatever it is, and just throw that, or frozen dinners, throw those in the microwave, because we're exhausted when we get home. I remember going, and because when I got together with Chandra, she was still in school. So she was still working that $9 an hour job, and she was doing all this stuff for her kids and their just ridiculous long hours, working overnights, doing these things, and like in home healthcare stuff. And I had a lot of issues going on too, because I had my grandmother to take care of. I had my mother who was in a nursing home. I was taking care of that side of things. So I would go into work. Well, I would make sure the youngest got on the bus. He got on the bus at 8:10 in the morning. So we'd get him down to the bus stop about 8 o'clock. His bus would come and pick him up. So then I would have to haul my rear end to work and not be late, because I had to be at work by 9. So I'm at work from 9 to 6, sometimes 6:30, 7 o'clock. Another half hour, 45-minute drive back to this side of town. I would have to drop in, see my mom at the nursing home, go to the grocery store, go home, start cooking dinner, making sure the kids doing their homework, make sure the dishes were getting done, things were being taken care of, because Chandra wasn't home. And this is my first rodeo with kids in general. So I'm learning as I go. I'm like basically trial by fire. And there was a lot of times it was just arguments and yelling, because I'm dealing with teenagers who don't want me there. And I'm trying to cook dinner and make sure things get done so that when she gets home, she has food. I'm trying to get things done because I'm exhausted. I spent all day at work. And then you get them ready to go, get them in bed. Then we get us and get to clean up and do all. Oh, it was just, yeah, it was nightmare. And I could, and that's with cars and and I was making decent money. So I was helping out, and, we were barely making ends meet, but we were doing it. I just, I just worry that we're doing things. We're trying so hard to do so much so fast that I don't think we're truly taking the time to think about the best way to go about doing all of this. Does all this stuff need to be changed? Yes. Do we need to be investigating all these things? Yes. Should we be looking at all these things? Yes. Do I think we need a commission that's always looking at this stuff? Yes. But this is a 125 years process of getting us to eat less meat, to eat more processed foods, to eat seed oils, having dyes and sugars. We didn't get to having Starbucks and all this super sugary milkshakes in the morning with muffins and bagels with no meat right away. It took time to get there. It all comes down to convenience because we have become a convenient society because we have stretched ourselves so very thin and we have to make ends meet. Rent next door at the house next door to us is a single story, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, 1,300 square foot, and they want like almost $2,000 a month. Who can afford that? We wanted our boys to go and rent that. It would take the three of them were looking to move in there. I don't think three of them can afford it. And they work at UPS. They make decent money. But even decent money doesn't go far now. So if you're making decent money and you're struggling, think about those who are making the bare minimum. Working 1, 2 jobs, struggling to make sure their kids get to school. Families falling apart. You're exhausted. You can't even handle anything. On top of that, then there's all the stuff for school. Like I wonder, like, I don't understand how our kids would be able to get, I don't understand how all happens. Like, we're grandparents and we're here to help with anything and everything that granddaughter needs. And we're helping with homework and we're doing the little assignments and the projects and things that need to happen to get back to school. They're not doing homework this year for some weird reason, but I mean, they're still sending projects home. So I think just having that, making sure that we're giving grace to those who need it. I think that's the biggest thing is we have a great community. I love every aspect of this community. And I want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make the lives of those who come after us easier and not harder. I think that's the bare minimum we can do. I think we can make sure that all of the trial by fire that we've been through, figuring out our weight loss, figuring out hormones and listening to lectures and going to conferences and listening to these speakers speak and listening to hundreds of amazing stories that we're able to put that together and put that out for all to see so they don't, for all of those who come after us, don't have to work as hard because there's millions of people following in our footsteps. And a lot of them, if they had to put up with what we have to put up, would just give up. And I don't want them to give up because I haven't given up. You haven't given up. And maybe together we can ensure that they don't give up. Because that's the common goal. We want people to be healthy. We want people to learn how to thrive. And that's just how I look at it. And it doesn't need to be controversial. And I imagine it is controversial. And Andy says, I never understood why not get a checking account to deposit your paycheck. I got one. A lot of us do get it at 16. But like, you go with your, I went and I got a savings account when I got my first job. I got a savings account, or then I went and got a checking account with my first job. And you do that, but then eventually, but think about though what happens when you are bottom of the barrel. Something happens, your bank account gets overdrawn, You can't pay it back. They close out your account. You can never really get ahead of it. So my bank even was doing a thing for a while because I was with Fifth Third Bank forever. And they were doing a thing where you could do a payday loan right through your checking account. Like they would look at how much money was deposited every 2 weeks into your account, and they would make it to where you had an allotted amount that you could borrow for like 3% interest or something like that, which was kind of high. Um, or whatever it was, or maybe it was, I think it was even higher than that for a while. Then they lowered it to 3%. But so they were like, you could borrow to $1,200. So you get all your bills paid, and then you need a little extra money for gas, and you're borrowing money. So then the next time your check comes in, that comes off the top, and then you're even less, and then you get back, oh, I need gas money again. So you're borrowing again. Then the next check comes in, that comes off the top, and just a snowball effect. And then you're never out of that cycle. And that happens to so many people. And then if you get behind, because I had a girlfriend at one point in time in my early 20s, mid 20s, and she got a hold of my bank account when she decided she was going to break up with me and leave me. And she spent like $1,500 $1,600 on my checking account. I didn't have that much money in my account. I was overdrawn by tons of money. And now, while they couldn't go in because I had given her permission previously to use my debit card from time to time, so there was nothing legally I could do. But if you don't have like a support system behind you to handle that, you're just screwed. And I mean, went in and talked to the bank multiple times, and we were able to kind of get them to cut down on some of the fees, the overdraft fees, because they're charging you $35 overdraft fee every time that card gets swiped or gets used. And so here I am, not even knowing this is happening. I come home from work one night and half my stuff is gone. She's gone. I never really heard from her again. I heard through the grapevine that she was like in jail here and there, and and then she tried to reach out to me on Facebook one time and saw that she had a little girl and things like that. But at that point, I mean, there's nothing legal I could do to her. But things like that happen to people, and then you're just kind of stuck, and then you don't have a checking account. And if you have a problem with a checking account at that point, you never get one again until you can like get like, or even like credit cards. Like you can get like one of those credit cards that you send them $300, they give you a $300 credit card, then you're using your own money really, and then you're still paying them interest on your own money. It's just a way to nickel and dime people. And even still, like nowadays, I think they give paychecks if you don't have a bank account onto a card or whatever. It's just a nightmare. And Mr. Guguhan was saying he was reading the book of Proverbs about how poverty makes life so much harder. And I see, and because the problem of the poverty is not the poverty. We've all kind of been broke. It's being so broke that you can't get ahead because no matter what you do, there's always something in the way. Then, like, even if you do have a car, you don't have a nice car, then something breaks down. You're like, even something happening like a tire going bad, and you have to go get a tire replaced for $200. You don't have $200. Or you're trying to buy groceries, you can't afford to buy the family pack of beef or the big tube, the big the big 10-pound things of beef, and you're buying it for $5 a pound and a pound a piece. And we know that that's supposed to be 4 servings, but it's not 4 servings. Yeah. Oh, Andy, I would love a sunrise. I love sunrises in Colorado. It's one of my favorite. Like we had our Airbnb one day out there at one time when we were staying out there in Colorado Springs, and I was looking out over Pikes Peak, just sitting on the porch having coffee. It was some of the best days. Just gorgeous. Oh, you're all caught up. Oh, let's see. Jerry said Dustin's poop talk got me this morning. There's always going to be poop talk. Yeah, I've tried using an immersion blender, but it just like leaves it kind of chunky for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, Rick says that height makes his air travel. Being big makes air travel difficult. I was always so like the anxiety of air travel when you're a big person. Am I going to get on the plane? Am I going to be able to get the? I never once in my entire life asked for a seatbelt extender. It would have made my life easier had I asked. Um, but I never asked. I was terrified if I asked, they were gonna have me get charged extra for be on the plane. I was gonna need to buy the seat next to me. I was like, who can afford that? I can't afford that. I barely afford the plane ticket I was taking, let alone have to either get kicked off the plane or have to buy another seat. And then I'm not eating wherever I'm going. I don't know. Karen is here, low carb spin. Good morning, she says, all the wonderful people. Evelyn says, question for everyone. When you were at your heaviest before keto carnivore, what job did you do? How much harder was it, if at all, because of your weight? So I worked in an office setting. So I was sitting in a chair. Thankfully, the chairs we had were like ridiculously well-made chairs. As I've gone through so many desk chairs, and they'll just like slowly over time had one like lean this way, just and just slowly break. I've had them lean back where they break backwards. I've had them just where they just give out. This chair I'm in now is really well built, and I like it. But we had really good, solid chairs, and that was huge. But I got to the point where I was going to the bathroom like 6 times in a shift, and like, gotta go, gotta go, gotta go right now type stuff. Which, I mean, that impacts productivity, that impacts all kinds of things. So I remember being in the bathroom and coming back, and my manager coming over to me and asking me like, "Hey, were you in the bathroom?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, okay." They were like, "Why? Where had you been? Would you want to like?" I'm just like had to go to the bathroom all the time, and I had that umbilical hernia, and all these things, and yeah, it made it difficult. But I mean, it wasn't as bad as if I had a physical job. Brian Doyle's in the house. Good morning, Brian. Thank you for being here. I'm a little backed up on the chat, but that's kind of par for the course. Cindy said, in retail, I was a retail manager, usually done alone in the store. Really didn't have any problems due to weight, thank goodness. Yeah, I did when I was my 20s. I was overweight. I wasn't as big as I had gotten to towards my 30s, but I worked at a warehouse, and it would have been better if I was thinner, because just on your feet on concrete for 10, 12, 13 hours a day. You get your 15-minute breaks, but most of that break is walking to the break room and then walking back. So your 15-minute break really comes out to be about 5 or 6 minutes, because you got to go out there and then you got to hustle back to be back before the break bell rings. It's not really a break. So, Andy said, Dustin, I was thinking about you yesterday at dinner. Mom made shepherd's pie, and I did not partake while the family ate in front of me. Our first meet up, you were fasting. I know how you felt. Well, it doesn't bother me anymore. And in the beginning it did. Like when I first went keto and stuff, and we would do things or go somewhere, we were like, "Oh, there was nothing for me to eat." And I was pretty strict back then. It was hard. It was difficult back then, but it does get easier. And I've fasted and done things. I've gone to many restaurants fasting, many restaurants fasting, because you go out with family. We have birthdays. We have things, we're going out for so and so's birthday. They want to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. So you go out with them, but you just have water. The most awkward thing is just ordering water from the waitress because it's like, well, what are you gonna have? Everyone else is ordering wings and sides and fries, and you're just like, water, please. It doesn't bother me anymore. I mean, it did, but I mean, it things like the meetup with you, Andy. I wanted to eat the soup. I wanted the soup. Maritza is here. Good morning, Maritza. Thank you for joining us. And then he said, I drank my Carbol Vibes drink and had conversation. I love it. And people are saying hello to other people. So Jerry means sis, not sus. Things are always sus around here. Bacon Baby's in the house. Good morning, Bacon Baby from the European Union, or I think you're in the UK, aren't you? Europe somewhere. I forget where you are. Remind us. I know you're somewhere in Europe. I was watching this morning, trying to make my headache go away. I was watching my Sunday with Ola. He's in Sweden, and he and his family, he does like every Sunday, like when he does a Sunday with Ola, like an adventures with Ola, and this adventure, he and his family were on a cruise to Helsinki. Just being able to like fly, like we flying to Finland. They're going on this. They're going to whether it's like to Gothenburg or whatever. Just always traveling within Europe, and it's pretty neat. Like in the United States, you got to get on a plane and fly hours and hours and hours and still be in the United States. So Rick says he's never been able to get on government benefits. My question is, have you ever like what's your income been? Is it because government benefits is income based? So if you're making above a certain level, then yeah, you won't get any benefits. But my grandmother had issues. Like so she just got Social Security, and she got like, I don't know for sure. It was like about $800 a month, and they weren't giving her food stamps or anything like that. It's like, how is somebody supposed to live in their 80s on $800 a month? Now, I was helping her out because I had to, because they're not giving her any benefits or anything like that. And it's just crazy to think like she's, bill. I was paying bills and stuff like that for her. And until she moved in with my aunt. And then she had like all that became a lot of money for her at that point because she wasn't paying, all there was rent bills. She was actually able to go buy herself some clothes but it's like, I get it, it's like, but at the same time, it's like, they're talking about taking away benefits for like people who have disabilities and people who are like in their 80s and 90s because why aren't they working? Because they're 90, they're 80. Why do they need to work? They've worked, they've done their time. And Stacy says, as I said yesterday on the subject, let's agree to disagree. It's not harder on them to not drink soda and eat candy. I support Maha. And I want to support Maha. I truly do. But they are making an ass of themselves. They're going after the wrong things at the wrong time and making themselves look like a laughingstock. Because there's a lot bigger things that they should be focusing on other than dyes are important. Yes, dyes are important. But chemtrails make them look stupid. Now, like I said, chemtrails probably are a thing, but it's not the most pressing thing currently. And I think we should be holding Maha accountable to make things palatable for the masses, because we're trying to help the masses. And if you're trying to manipulate the masses into helping them, but you're making them angry or not trust you in the first place, they're not going to do what you say. You have to make them trust you. How do you make someone trust you? By giving them information they can relate to. Be relatable. But they're not doing that. And that's what bugs me. And yeah, it's not technically harder on them because they're not able to drink sodas and all that stuff. But my thing is why are we picking on the poor first? That's what bugs me. We're picking on the poor first. Because I don't care what my tax dollars go to all kinds of things, but I would rather my tax dollars go to somebody to make their life easier, not harder. Because being poor is already flipping hard enough. And Jerry says 200 days thus far. We're getting started. It didn't happen overnight, and it will take another 200 days patience. Yeah. Sherry says, I live on Social Security. I have state help with Medicaid and may lose it because of new bill. At 69, I might be forced back to work so I can pay my bills. And I think that's ridiculous. At what point is enough work enough? And Rick says, welfare for the poor is better than welfare for the rich. Yeah, I mean, the rich get richer and the poor still struggle. And I just don't think, it doesn't make sense in the long run to try and, under the guise of making things healthier for the poor, to make it harder for the poor. I just, because whether or not you agree whether they should or shouldn't drink soda, I don't think they should be drinking soda either. Nobody really should be drinking soda. Soda should be an every once in a while thing. But at the same time, it's not my choice to make. It's them. I think if you're going to give them assistance, they should be able to buy whatever the fuck they want. Like, life's already hard enough. And if they want some soda, so be it. But and the same thing is we should be working to educate. We should be working to gain their trust. We should be working to get them on our side, get them to see what we see, get them to understand that, well, drinking that soda's not good. I know nobody thinks soda's good for you. Whether it's diet or full sugar soda, nobody really thinks soda's good for them. Nobody really thinks that drinking that 30-ounce Dunkin' Donuts coffee with 100 grams of sugar in it's good for you. And it's not a matter of good or bad. It's not a matter of it's just a matter of what becomes commonplace. And how do we change what becomes commonplace is by paradigm shift. And I think in order to make the biggest shift, we need to get people on our side. That means openness, understanding, community, all the things that we are here. All the things that we do here, but on a mass scale. And I know not everybody's going to agree with me, and I understand that. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. You know? Evelyn says, it's easier on my husband when we all go out to eat. I ask all the questions, decide on my meal, and order it, and then he says, I'll get that too. That works. And Rick is out of here. Have fun being an adult, Rick. Thank you for being here, my buddy, my friend. Cindy is going to be on a Wednesday live at 6 a.m. with Dr. Kiltz. I still haven't picked the date for me. And Stacy says, your opinion, your show, I'm out of here. It takes all of us, whether we agree or not. And my goal here is not to divide. My goal here is not to anger people. My goal here is not to alienate people. My goal here is to create discussion, Open a forum. We all have to talk this out because we're not all going to agree. Never are we all going to agree. And I don't get upset with people if they don't agree with me. Well, I love you, Cindy. I mean, Cindy, Stacy. I do. Ken and Stacy are amazing people. And everyone's going to listen to Cindy in the morning on Wednesday. And Jerry says, I'm not a fluoride advocate. I'm not a fluoride advocate either. I have been using a non-fluoride toothpaste for a while, but it's a trade-off because it's got sorbitol in it. But no matter what we do, whether it's bottled water or any kind of water we get out of our refrigerator or whatever is going to have fluoride in it, I imagine even like the only way to really get fluorinated water, I don't even know, are they putting fluoride back in distilled water? Who knows? Everybody say they're going to be watching Cindy on Kilts on Wednesday. And Cindy says there is absolutely no way to get everyone on the same page. There are way too many opinions, beliefs, etc. This world would be so boring if everybody was the same. Yeah, I agree. And Evelyn is asking Erin if she homeschools. I guess she homeschools the younger ones, but not the older ones. Because that's one thing that I worry about with like homeschooling. We didn't obviously, but like I know my cousin homeschooled her kids and such. At a certain point, I think they need to be like socialized, like go out and kind of learn, like maybe early. I mean, even early school kids, they need to be around other kids. But if you've got 10 kids and there's plenty of kids to be around, but like that's one of the reasons like we were excited for our granddaughter to go to school because she spent all her time with just Chandra and I. Here's a little kid spending her time with two grown old farts. Needs to go around, and be around other 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, whatever the case is, and learn how to be a kid. And I think like, and I mean, and everybody has a right to make a profit. That's the thing. That's a free market. Everybody needs to make their money, but I think you should be able to make your money up to the point to where it's going to cause harm. And I think we've got to the point where regulation and stuff is just inhibits that. But I don't think that regulation that saves us is a problem. Not putting lead in the gasoline and not pouring that into the rivers, and it's just we've got to be better all the way around. Aaron says, bye everybody, got to hit those deals on shopping. 100%. Have a good day, Aaron. We'll see you later. Carl says, many years ago, we were on government assistance. We found it odd that we had to pay 3x the amount to buy the ingredients to make a roast chicken, but we're not allowed to buy a rotisserie chicken. And that's one thing that drives me nuts is, you know, while I imagine that most people on government assistance could not necessarily afford a Costco membership, but there are ways around shopping at Costco without a membership. Somebody who has a membership can purchase Costco gift cards and give those to people. And then people can go into Costco and buy things like rotisserie chickens. So like you can give somebody like 50 bucks, 60 bucks on a Costco gift card. They could go in and buy rotisserie chickens at $5 a pop. Well, then they're going to pay, I think you're going to pay 9% sales tax on that. I think pre-prepared food carries, let's see. All right. So it says in Indiana, or prepared food is generally subject to a statewide sales tax of 7%. Additionally, depending on the county or municipality, an extra food and beverage tax may apply to prepared food transactions, typically at a rate of 1 or potentially 2%. In areas that are both county and municipality have adopted the tax. So I don't know, like, 'cause I know at fast food restaurants and restaurants, it's a tax of 9% since they put in Lucas Oil Stadium. Evelyn says, biggest cuts this year, no busing for the older kids. There is the possibility of more accidents as young drivers have to get themselves to school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I worry about that. Kids driving themselves to school. Jerry says, families used to care for each other. Other things were different when times were simpler. Well, I think that communities were smaller. Like neighborhoods meant something, and but if you've got a neighborhood where everybody's struggling, then I mean it's harder for everybody to take care of each other. I mean, and there's always things like food banks and stuff. Like my stepdad, my brother's dad, he works volunteers. Is basically his job now is he volunteers at a food bank, and they give him food instead of payment. And um, he works at one of those, but it's all like it's never hard. It's hardly ever meat. It's almost always pre-packaged, hyper palatable foods because that's shelf stable. That's what they can get donated to them. It's cheap. So even in that instance, you're not getting healthy food. So I really don't know. Like, I don't know what the answer is because I would love to just donate pallets and pallets and pallets of meat. But do they have the freezer space? Do they have, to keep it long enough for people to come get it? There's just so much logistic problems that comes with poverty. Aaron says that I released a Butter Woman YouTube short. They always talk about taking away soda and candy from the poor people. I don't think it'll ever happen because the big companies don't want to lose the business. Well, I think that a lot of there's been I don't know how many states have adopted it already, but it'll happen for a certain degree. But again, one of my major things is it's not even the fact necessarily that they're trying to take away the soda, but if right now they're taking away the soda, then what's the next administration comes in and goes, you know what? They had a right idea. They took away soda. That's unhealthy for us. So let's cut back on the amount of meat they can get. They can only buy, like 99% fat free ground turkey or whatever it is with I think once it's a slippery stuff of what you start really limiting what people can buy with what you give them, it just makes it that much harder because meat's so much more expensive, you know? And we don't buy fresh vegetables. We never buy fresh vegetables. We always buy frozen. But again, we have the freezer space. If you have the ability to do these things and buy in bulk and shop sales and all these things, it just makes it so much easier. Yeah, Kellogg was a weird man. Kellogg was part of he was involved with like the 7-Day Adventists and stuff like that from what I understand, and he wanted to make foods that lower people's sex drives and kept people from wanting to be aroused and all that stuff. It was weird. Like a weird reason to make a product. I want to make a cereal. He didn't want even to taste good. He wanted to he kept trying with different amounts of salt. Yeah, it's just crazy. Sherry says, I still have the same bank account when I was 16, even though I am in Arizona. Internet banking works state to state because of the online abilities. Yeah. Well, not even just that, Jerry, but they've got that Affirm stuff now. You can do like you could order your DoorDash and pay it off in 4 payments. It's like that's not going to catch up people or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, yeah. Like, it's crazy out there. But I understand because I mean, if you're a busy person, you don't have time to cook. And I mean, how many people know how to cook now? It's like you get these cooking videos and they're like, what temperature do you set the oven at? I'm like, it's just almost always 350. And Andy says, I guess I'm showing my privilege then. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, there's no reason to be sorry. There's just so many things that pop up that we just don't have that perception. We don't have we don't have the ability to see it from everybody's point of view. We just don't. And I mean, like I said, if you've never been fat, you don't know what it's like to be fat. If you don't know what it's like to always be skinny and 6'6", you don't know what it's like to be Rick. Like, and it's nothing wrong with not understanding or having that perspective because you can't live everybody's life. You can't know everything about everybody's life. You can't know all of these things. And that's what community is for, to learn, to grow, to understand. And I have my opinions, and I don't expect everyone to agree with my opinions, but I hope that people see my opinions and understand that they come from a place of caring. And and my opinions may change tomorrow. My opinions, my thoughts, what I think to be true today could always change tomorrow, because who I was 10 years ago isn't who I am today. Things that I thought were true 10 years ago, I don't believe are true now. That's part of growing. That's part of being a human and being involved in a community and learning and just evolving as a person. That's why, I want to share my opinion, because maybe my perspective is a way that people hadn't thought about it before. And like I said, I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure everything is easier for the people who come after us. Isn't that what we want for our kids? We want our kids to have it better than we did. We want our kids to have it easier than we had it. We want them to understand things. Like one day I was like our granddaughter has like this cup. And when you fill it up, it's got a lid. If you try to close it with the lid closed, it's more likely to shoot water out of the sides than if you open the lid and close it. And I kind of mentioned that to Chandra, and she looked at me like, I know how to close this. And while that's true, I think that explaining and sharing our experiences and the things that we figured out should never be looked at as bad. And I understand that there's a difference between trying to do that and what would be considered like mansplaining or whatever. But I think we've gotten to the point where I should know everything, you should know everything, and we should never have to tell each other anything. I shouldn't have to explain anything to you. You shouldn't have to explain anything to me. We should just know. But that's not how the way the world works. So I mean, even just something as little as if you pop the top on this thing, then it's open and you screw it closed, it has a place for the water to go, and it's not going to go out the sides and down on the floor. So I figured that out. So I wanted to share that with her. And then she kind of got snippy with me. And then later on, I went back and revisited it. And I was like, all I wanted to tell you is that, I'd had that happen to me. I figured out if I opened it up and closed it, it didn't spill. And I figure we should be passing that information along. It's never, I don't think you're good enough to know this, is I don't know what you know. I don't know what I don't know what I don't know. None of us have no idea what we don't know until we figure out we didn't know it. I mean, that's why we're here, right? To share our journeys, to share the things that we figured out. And I have a platform to share my own opinions. And like I said, I'm not trying to make everybody else believe or follow my opinions, but hopefully we're just spreading the love, and we're just trying to make sure that we're all trying to be somewhat on the same page. We're never all going to be on the same page, but I would at least, we all want people to be healthy. We all want people to learn to make better choices. And Jerry says, where does the privilege start, though? I would say you earned what you have done for yourself and your family benefits. Yeah, I mean, everybody's starting from different spaces. Everyone's starting from somewhere different. I had a mom that was poor, but she taught me how to do stuff. She knew how to maximize money. I think if she would have known how to run like a money market account, she could have probably taken what she had and turned it into millions of dollars. Like, my mom could save. My mom was crazy at saving money. She knew how to make it work for the best. I think, you know, uh, we didn't go out to eat. We didn't do things like that. I mean, every once in a while we go to McDonald's, get a Happy Meal or whatever, but like it wasn't very often. And I mean, so often, like our meals, so often were fish sticks and canned carrots. That was like a lot. And then sometimes we'd have the Chef Boyardee box pizza with nothing extra on it. What came in the box? So if it had sauce and it had Parmesan cheese, that's what it had on it. Or we would have, like, then we would have things like sometimes she'd make roast potatoes and carrots. Or we would have, a lot of times we'd have the tuna noodle helper that she'd bake in the oven, cut up potatoes and make fried Texas fries or whatever, the big home fry things, you know? I just think, but she did that in Crisco because, she didn't know better. That's what's on the market. Why were they selling it if it's not good for you? I think we have a responsibility. I think every human on this planet has a responsibility to make sure that what we learn, what we figure out, gets passed on to somebody else. So they don't have to take the time to learn what we've already figured out. They can take the time to learn something that we didn't have time to figure out. And I think so much of human history is lost, just lost. Humans in on the whole have amnesia. Like, we argue over what did we eat 200 years ago. We argue what did we do 1,000 years ago. We argue what did we do 10,000 years ago. We don't even know for sure. We think there may have been multiple different civilizations that have come and risen and been destroyed. What we would consider modern type civilizations, whether they had plastics, we don't think, or they had other things, we don't know. But we're finding the more we go, the more we dig, the more we look at things. We start using LiDAR to scan things. And we've only even looked at like not even 5% of the ocean. We have no idea what's really down there. There's so much out there we just don't know. And we have such short collective memories that it's going to truly take all of us to continue sharing our knowledge, what we've learned, what's worked for us, what didn't work for us in every aspect of life. Not just a health journey, but that's why we're really here, right? But we're also here, hopefully, to push humanity forward. And that's all I really want out of all of this, is just how can we better push humanity forward without being a dick about it? Risa is here. Good morning, Risa. So very glad to see you. People saying hello. I mean, it was, it wasn't a bad. I mean, I like the job. I really love the job. It made me be able to talk and find a voice because I talked all day. And I really liked the job. It was rewarding until it wasn't, and then it was time to move on. I think that's one thing, is knowing when to move on at a job is very difficult. I saw an article the other day. It was about a company, like a vice president found out that one of his employees actually held three jobs. He was working three remote jobs at the same time, and fired him for it. And I guess he was, like, allegedly, according to the article, they were a top performer. My question for that vice president would have been, okay, you have an employee who's working three jobs, three remote work jobs, and he's a top performer for you, assuming that the article was correct. Why would you fire that person? And people who side with the company is, well, why wouldn't you? He was working two other jobs. Yeah. And being a top performer for you. Why was he working? Why did he feel he had to work three jobs? And some people are like, well, they must not have given him enough work. My whole thing is I think if you provide value for a company, they should pay you for the value that you bring to that company. Just like with content creators, if you're a content creator, if you're going live and you're talking with people and you're bringing value, you deserve to be compensated for that value that you bring. Whether it's super chats or hopefully views, hopefully you get enough views to bring in some sort of income, or sponsorships, or whatever it takes. I think, we should be looking at what value do you add to society. We can break down our community. How much value to society does this community bring to society as a whole? We're getting together, we're building relationships, we're showcasing people's successes, their failures, where they went wrong, what they did right. And I kind of wonder, if you can get back to that guy, the vice president, figuring out that his guy had three jobs, why not hire him and put him in a spot that showcases his true value to you? I don't understand why that's considered a negative. And I was going to make the analogy of, well, that would be like, somebody in poverty working at McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's all at the same time, but they wouldn't be able to necessarily do it at the same time. They'd be like, they would work in the morning to mid-afternoon at Wendy's, and then go work at McDonald's in the afternoon, and then pick up an extra shift on whatever their days off are at Burger King or whatever, right? Basically working around the clock for three different places, where this person might not be doing that. They may be doing that within a 10-hour period, working three different jobs. But I think someone who's putting that much effort in becoming a top performer, instead of what's considered quiet quitting, which is basically doing the job, doing the bare minimum that is required of you, not going above, not going beyond, not working overtime, just coming in, logging in, doing what you're asked, and then going home. Basically come in and meet expectations and then go home. Because realistically, when you start a job, they're paying you to meet expectations. That's it. That's the bare minimum. They're paying you a salary for that. And if you go above and beyond, then they should be paying you more. And that doesn't mean a 1%, 2% raise annually, because you can quit and start new jobs and make more than that. If you work at a job 2 to 3 years, you can make 10, 15% more every time you switch jobs. Instead, companies should start seeing the value in their employees, and start making sure that they are giving them that 10%, whatever it is, annually, to keep them from job hopping. How do we make that kind of commitment to our employees? Because it used to be an employee worked at a company, one company, until they retired. They got their gold watch, a pension, and they went on about their way. It doesn't work like that anymore, because companies just over time erode what they give to employees. Employees work and work and work for the company. Company makes profit, 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 and the employee never sees any of that. How do we fix that? I kind of feel like that there's a parallel there with the food industry. We purchase all of this food from these food industries, and they're making the foods cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. The prices keep going up and up and up. The nutrition goes down, down, down. We get sicker, worse off, paying more for medications. Meat becomes more expensive, even though it's not like grass. I mean, the idea that you can go and you can afford grass-fed, grass-finished beef and blah 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 blah. Even if you were going and buying like a half cow or whatever, or going in with somebody and buying a quarter cow or whatever, that's still a huge upfront investment most people can't make. So you would think, for longevity's purposes, that these food companies would want to give you the best product, not just the freshest product, not making sure it tastes the best, but making sure that they're making sure you're around long enough to enjoy their food. I don't know. It's just there's so much about it that drives me insane. Karen is in the house. Good morning, Karen. Glad to see you. And I see down here that somebody's asking, it's like, well, they may have been working for the competition. Even if they're working for the competition, if they're not providing any vital information or any information that's like, as most times when you join a company, you have kind of an NDA that you can't provide, like you can't legally give information about this company to the other company. If they weren't doing that, who cares? That wasn't mentioned in the article. They were just working at three different jobs. They may not even all been in the same industry. They were just three different remote work jobs. I mean, realistically, it doesn't even matter a lot of times what job you're doing. They're all relatively the same. You're working at a computer, you're making sure data goes from here to there, you're in meetings and conferences, and you're doing whatever, working on projects. And yeah, it doesn't really even matter what industry you're in. It's all relatively the same. And I know that's kind of an overgeneralization, but in the grand scheme of things, that's really how it looks like. Brides Biscuits in the house. Good morning. Glad to see you. Everybody's saying hello. Brenda Foley is here. I'm glad to see you. Evelyn says, normalize, bring your own chaffles. Bring your own chaffles. I love it. And Rick says, my income is zero. The taxes I pay consume it all. So are you considered a contractor? That might be why you don't. I don't know how that works. If you're considered a contractor, how you would get social service benefits. I don't know, to be honest with you. Risa says, my son is supposed to get Medicaid for medical reasons, and it may not happen because he doesn't work 80 hours a month. So we will see if it actually comes. That's the thing, is like, if you have a medical issue and we should be taking care of our sick and our wounded and all that stuff. Like people who come back from war, people who come back with a military service, we should be taking care of them. We should be taking care of it should be, we should be taking care of each other. We really should be we're trillions and trillions of dollars in debt. And if that isn't going to taking care of ourselves, then we're just doing it wrong all the way around. We're trillions and we're 40 some trillion dollars in debt. At this point, take care of people. It doesn't even matter anymore. Just take care of people, get them what they need. It doesn't even matter anymore. Like, we're so far in debt, just take care of people. And Lisa says, Rick, they try to tax us to death. Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm going to be going in and being like my own boss and creating an LLC and all this stuff. And I imagine that most of my stuff is going to be like, I'm going to be taxed like crazy. Well, and Jerry, I mean, yeah, we were talking about this last night. Shannon and I were like, you give a man a fish or teach a man to fish. I mean, at some point, you got to give a man a fish, because what if a man doesn't have time to go fishing? Like a blacksmith didn't have time to go fishing to catch a fish. I just think, I think we've gotten off on the wrong foot. We don't help each other enough, and we're supposedly a Christian nation, and I don't see that very much anymore. And I'm not much of a religious person, but I figure if we're going to claim something, we ought to act like it. If we're going to claim to be a Christian nation, we better act like it. And I don't see us doing that very much. I see us being a very selfish nation. Cindy says the woman that won first place is 75 plus year age group, and the tournament was and in the tournament was 93. She is a remarkable person. She also works 3 days a week at a nursing home. Her choice. Oh my goodness. Just being in nursing homes is like devastating. Sometimes it just takes that. Sometimes you just got to say what you got to say. The world isn't often pretty. And Cindy says I had a potty mouth. That's why I'm saying that, because sometimes the world isn't pretty, and you got to call it out like it is. And Josephine says, I would like to see the business less the sugar in their yeah. I mean, and we're seeing more and more and more like, no sugar added and things like this, but a lot of that's all marketing. A lot of it really, you're looking at no sugar added versus the regular stuff. Like I was showing this to I was talking about this with our son the other day because he buys ice cream sandwiches. He's 21 years old, works at, whatever, and he shops like a 10-year-old who won the lottery, and he comes home with ice cream sandwiches, and I'm showing him the side of the package, and I said the no sugar added version is only 1 gram of carbohydrate less than the full sugar version. So realistically, there is absolutely no difference between the two. So that's the thing. I think a lot of that stuff is really, really, really just marketing. And there's sugar and things that I don't understand. I don't understand why people put that sugar and stuff. I guess it makes it more palatable when we've been adding sugar and taking away fat for so long. Carl says they need to trumpet real health food propaganda louder than the old sad health propaganda. It will take a ton of time to reverse the education. Just changing and switching the paradigm, getting people to be, it's entrenched in every aspect of our lives, you know? Like it's so entrenched in our lives that it's in pop culture. When I've talked about this before, you can watch movies and TV shows and they talk about low cholesterol, and heart healthy and all these things. And it's just in every aspect of everything. It's in every aspect. It's going to take so much time to reverse the school of thought that we have been indoctrinated with in the last 125 plus years. We need to start working on that now. And I think that's what our community is doing. But we're still on a very micro level. Even somebody like Dr. Barry. Dr. Barry has a big footprint in our community, but in the grand scheme of national society, he doesn't know much. That's growing. Even with 3 million subscribers on YouTube, he's still in the grand scheme of big time, he's still small. And it's going to take time. And Lisa says, I love to hear people's opinions. Gets me out of my head for a while. I'm learning that I'm my own show. I'm funny, scary, and sad, all my own entertainment. I love that. I want to hear what people think too. And I want to know, why do you think that? And is there, and like I said, I don't like being divisive. I don't like bringing in politics. But this is a political that directly impacts us, though. Like Maha movement, Make America Healthy Again. I just don't think it's on the right track. I want it to be something better than it is. And we can say something, but something isn't always good. Just because it is something doesn't always mean it's worth risking everything that this community has worked so hard to build so far. And I think the way they're going about things now runs a risk of causing huge setbacks, because I mean they're coming at it and people look at them like they're crazy. They're not. I mean, there's photos of them on an airplane eating McDonald's and stuff, and it's like, okay, I mean, and I know that that shouldn't matter, but it does to the general populace. People look at that and go, "Oh, you want to make America healthy again?" But then here you are on a plane doing this with people they don't like. Because let's face it, politics has always been divisive, but it's never been as divisive as it is now, and that's scary. And I don't want health to be so divisive, and it has been. It's been very polarized. I don't even know how we. I don't know how we fix it unless we truly try to overcome and we try to bridge that gap with every ounce of resolve that we have, trying to make sure that we are not excluding people. We are not going against what's in the best interest of the masses. And Cindy's telling Lisa that she has the best outlook on life and all things after all you have been through. Yeah, I've heard her story and it's insane the stuff that she's been through and that she's still such a positive force. And I'm truly glad that you're here, Lisa. I'm really glad that you are here, and you too, Cindy, most of the time. Um and Lisa says she just loves you, Cindy. Yeah, I do too. Evelyn says, if I want the correct answer, I have to talk to myself and get the answer. I feel that a lot of people look at that, look at things that way. And Brenda says, reminds me I need to start making placemats and cloth napkins for Dare to Care. Yeah. Ash Taylor was in the house at least a half hour ago. Hello, friends. Just wanted to pop in for a second and say hi. Well, we're glad that you're here, Ash. If you haven't, please go save her new song coming out. I don't have it at hand. I can look it up real quick to see what it says. I had to pull up my Instagram to see what it says on there, because I know she's got a new song coming out and I need to look at it and see what it is. I'm just really bad at remembering things. My internet's being slow right now. This town built me. So make sure that you are going over to pre-save Ash's This Town Built Me song. It comes out, I think, later this month, and I'm stoked for everybody to hear it. I know she's played the song a little bit for people, but go pre-save that over on Spotify or your favorite music listening platform. Please do that. I'd appreciate that very much. Yeah, Reese is right. Lisa, I think that it's super brave to get out there and on camera and tell your story, your truth. Yeah, I think it's amazing for all of us. Carl says, talking with Chris Cook in Nashville and Ash, and they mentioned that the pastors of their church are carnivore, so switch their food donation program to keto foods only instead of sad foods. Mind blowing. And I appreciate that. And I hopefully, and that's great that they would have the infrastructure and available to do that. And I don't know what it takes to upgrade and fix other pantries to do that, to upgrade what their donations are to be able to help with keto and carnivore and such. I mean, they're going to need lots of refrigeration, freezers, all that stuff. I think to keep fresh food fresh, it's going to it takes a lot more infrastructure. So I mean, that's a lot of money, and a lot of those places just don't have it. But I think it's truly mind blowing that they're doing that. Like, I really think that Pastor Bob and his organization do great things. Shauna's in the house. Good morning, Shauna. She says, good morning from the left coast. Yeah, canned meats work well. I mean, whether it's sardines, tuna, canned chicken, there's canned beef, but it seems like all that stuff is like really expensive too. So, I mean, I guess you got to choose your expensive, you know? And Shauna's telling me hi to me. Carl's got the right idea. I'm not going to read that out loud, but you get the idea. Let's see. Jerry says our church is doing a Monday fast during August. That's cool. And Lisa says, Risa, I think honestly it is so important. I know I'm not alone, and I encourage everyone to make their own videos and start healing old wounds. Yeah, just understanding that you truly aren't alone. Where there's one person else out there who feels the same way that you do. I truly feel that that's amazing. I think that's what we should all be looking at. You know, people saying hello to more people, and Josephine, that's why we all have ears so we can listen. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and Ash says, yeah, our church does do that. Uh, and our homeless ministry has got rid of the box junk. So the only thing they serve to everyone is whole food. That's amazing. And I'm curious to see if they're still getting the same amount of food to share with people as before. Because even though we don't want to spread that kind of stuff, being hungry sucks. Um, I spent a lot of time being overweight and hungry all the time. You know, it's a different type of hunger, but just being hungry is no fun. And I imagine that being homeless or being, not having enough to eat, that weighs on you. And I would think that while preferred food would be, single ingredient, whole food, meat, eggs, that kind of thing, at least getting something in my tummy would be better than nothing. So I'm curious to know, like, are they getting the same quantity and being able to supply it to the same number of people as they were before? I'm just curious about that. And Shauna says, "Don't shake partially open keto chow blender bottle at me this AM." Yeah, don't shake like the bottle of barbecue sauce when it's not have a lid on it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Evelyn says, "I've never used DoorDash. I've never used DoorDash myself, but I've worked it. I worked DoorDash, but I've never ordered from there." Ash has to run. Well, thank you, Ash, for being here. Give Chris and Mel our love. We love you very much, and thank you for stopping by, dear. Josephine said, "Kids love my poor woman's food. I cooked most would turn out." Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. My mom's focus when I was a kid is making sure we had our tummies full, not necessarily always the quality of the food, just making sure that we had our tummies full. Because, nobody wants to go to bed hungry. Jerry says, "I laugh about how people rationalize their own choices on how to buy food. A $5 chicken makes four modest meals, $20 door dashes, one carby bad decision if one is poor." Yeah, I think that realistically, though, it's all a matter of perspective. People who have not been truly poor, but also I would deliver to like young kids who it's just easier for them to DoorDash. It's just right there. It's easy and it comes to you. And there's so much weird social anxiety these days. Like I know our kids would rather do anything than talk on the phone. I mean, I know just the difference between like my generation and our kids' generation. I talked on the phone all the time. My mom talked on the phone all the time. I worked at a job where I talked on the phone. Even when I worked at the warehouse, I was on the phone on a walkie-talkie or something of just communicating. Like there's a communication level that lacks these days. We don't have the level of communication. Everybody gets triggered about things, or I can't hear about what you're saying because that triggers me and makes me think about something from my past. Okay, maybe you should deal with that. Maybe you should work on that. Maybe that's something that's, if it's coming up, you can't get mad at the person talking about their experience because it bothers you about your experience and trigger warnings and all these things. And I understand why they're there. I truly do. But we have to handle our own. We have and we have to make sure we have people in our lives there to help us. Because you can't do it alone. No man is an island. You know? Oh my goodness. Like I miss roast potatoes and carrots. That stuff was delicious. My mom made some good food back in the day. Uh-oh, hopefully you didn't use heavy cream. Yeah, carbs are cheap, but they cost us. I mean, that's the thing is like box mac and cheese. You still got to have butter, margarine, or like milk. You're not just making it with water. I mean, I imagine you could, but you know. Shauna says, Evelyn, my new recipe: butter, hot water, a couple of teaspoons, instant espresso. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Shauna. Shauna got it down. Plus keto chow. Jerry said a few weeks ago I told Dustin about how I was drinking hot butter water. It's more the idea that it's called hot butter water that it's funny. It's not that that's I mean, I've eaten just butter, but hot butter water, a little bit of salt, that sounds good. I'd be all right about that. And I laugh at a lot of things, so don't take it personal. Yeah. Sean is yelling at me later in the chat. Good morning. Evelyn said, instead of firing the guy, let's give you a living wage to work just one for me. I mean, even like I could say, like I would say, kind of jumping back to that situation of the gentleman that was working 3 remote jobs. Say he was making 50 grand at each one of them. That's 150 grand. And if he's not, and I mean, he's not putting himself out and he's just doing an 8-hour job, why not? Isn't the whole idea to get ahead in life? I mean, if you can get away with it, do it. I mean, if you have the capabilities, should you have to? No, but I mean, think about people like living in New York City. They're living in like a $2,000 a month apartment. It's like smaller than this bedroom. It's like probably half the size of this bedroom. You may not even be able to fit a bed in there. You're like sharing a bathroom, and I mean, it's like. And I saw a video the other day of a man living in a $150 a month storage unit. At least a place he could close it and sleep at night and not have to worry. I think that's a big part of like the poverty. There's always you're never not worrying about something. I think a big privilege, and I know that we all worry about things no matter how much money we have, but there's a weight that gets lifted off your shoulders if you don't have to worry about when you go to the gas station how much gas you're putting in your car. If you just go to the gas station, you can just fill it up and you're not worried about your card overdrawing or whatever. That's a level. That's I mean, and I hate to say the word privilege, but there's just a level there of because I still don't think privilege is the right word there because you're putting an effort to be there. You're working hard. You've done things correctly to get there. That's not necessarily privilege. Privilege to me is something you didn't have to work for. Privilege is something that's innately just handed to you. But like, when I take the cars to put gas in it, do I drive to Costco to save 25 cents a gallon? Sure. A lot of the times I do. Not all the time, because sometimes time is of the essence. So I just go to the gas station closest to our house and I pay 25 cents more a gallon or 20 cents more a gallon, depending on where things are. But Costco's typically cheaper per gallon. But if you can go to the store, buy groceries, not necessarily worry about how much it's totally going to cost. I mean, you're no matter what these days, you're like, every time the checkout guy gives you the thing, like you go to Costco and it's $300. It's hard, it's gut wrenching. But if you go to the store, you don't have to worry about going overdrawn or going to the gas station and filling up your car because you need gas, but you're not like just putting in 15 bucks to get you through the week because you have enough to, there's a lot of things that we take for granted as, as I mean, we're affluent people. I'm not necessarily personally. I mean, I don't bring in my own money, but Chandra has money. She is an ICU nurse. She has a top tier job. She works hard at her job. She brings that job home with her. That stays with her. The things that she does and the things that she sees come home with her. She pays a price for that job. And then she has a side hustle too. She does her eBay. So she's working 2 jobs to live this life. But she came from a place of knowing how all that worked, having to struggle, having to put $10 in just to get you through the next couple of days till you got a little bit more money. Then you'd put more money in the gas tank. Going to the store, buying just enough food to get you through the next couple of days, living on. We would go to the store. We were buying the 5 packs of mac and cheese for $5. We were buying cases of ramen noodles. We lived on ramen. We lived on frozen pizza. We lived on mac and cheese. We didn't hate it. It tastes good. We liked it. Was it good for us? Absolutely not. But we were in a position to where we could afford what we could afford. Did we still buy soda sometimes? Sure we did. Well, once we went keto, we didn't anymore, but that's all pre-keto. I just think that we need to remember our perspective isn't the only one. Our outlook in life is not the only one. Yeah, and Evelyn hit this around the head. What would it take for you to for me to work for you only? Yeah, 100%. And Carl says they make people sign non-compete agreements, but don't pay them enough to only have one job. So I think it's like, yeah, you don't want to compete necessarily, but I mean, you could like say you have an insurance job, and then you have like I don't know, like you have like an auto insurance job for you work for whatever company, and then you go and you work for a different company that does a whole other line of business, a whole other different thing, and you work for another, like, what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff out there you can do that would be non-compete. I want to say good morning to Gabrielle Paul's mom. I didn't say I mentioned you in the chat, but I didn't say hello to you. But hello, good morning. Thank you for being here. And Sunny Chronicles is in the house. Thank you for being here, dear. She's a gig worker. She's out there busting her ass all the time. She's working like 3 or 4 apps at the same time. She's doing DoorDash and the Walmart thing, and she's doing Spark, DoorDash. She's doing all these things. She's doing, sometimes I think she's even doing like Uber and stuff. She's like putting in work, doing like all these things. It's crazy just to make ends meet. Lisa says, everyone, I got to run. Have a great day. Thank you for being here, Lisa. I truly appreciate you so much. And Shauna made it back. Thank you, Shauna. I'm glad to see you. And Risa says, we went through the hoops to get him signed up, and now he won't get it. Hubby is retired. I work 32 to 35 hours a week for not much, and he isn't working more than 15, 25 hours a week, some months more than others. Yeah. I think that's the thing, is like when you start cutting so much and you're cutting it, like there's so much to cut in the budget that cutting what people need to survive should be the last thing in line. You should be cutting senators' pay. You should be cutting all of that stuff first. Because my thing is if the government isn't running like a well-oiled machine, they don't need to be paid. I mean, like they are. Because they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. if a you know if the budget isn't balanced, then they should take a pay cut. If we're in debt, they should get a pay cut. It's ridiculous. Rick obviously has plenty of time to find iguanas. And Evelyn said that I saw a video on how a bakery let all her workers eat for free no matter what. She said after a while, people get so sick of all of it. They really don't have money for food or time to eat. And I think that's my thing is like I worked at my first job was Steak and Shake. And in the 90s, I think we got a 60% discount. So you still had to have money to eat. So like you go to work and you want to eat. I mean, a lot of times they would give you something for free, depending on your manager would let you eat for free or whatever. But then like I worked at Chuck E. Cheese and like there'd be a mess up pizza and like the manager would take this perfectly good pizza with a whole crew busting their ass all day and just toss it in the trash because if you let your people eat it, then they're more likely to make mess ups so they have pizza to eat. And I'm just like, that's such a short-sighted way to look at things. You're going to take a perfectly good pizza. I mean, it was perfectly good for me because it was like pepperoni and sausage. And I was like, oh. And I'm like 18 years old working there. I'm like, why are you throwing that away? And he's like, well, I'm like, oh, I get it. But like, profits are important. You got to stay in business. But like, I mean, for real, it's ridiculous. And Risa says, I totally agree. Government doesn't care about the people. It's just about themselves and what they want. Yeah. Evelyn says she didn't want people to steal from her and made it a better working environment. I mean, if you work in a food place, you should get to eat for free. I mean, not like you're eating that much. Jerry said, the live today will be a great script for my video driving home today. Lots to say. I'm curious to see what you have to say, Jerry. And then there's Shauna saying, good morning again. And Evelyn said, yeah, our generations were phone talkers. I talk on the phone all the time. We answered the phone not knowing who was calling. Yeah, 100%. Now, I mean, to the point where you got to be careful. If realistically, you should never answer a number you don't know now, because one of the biggest things that's happening with that is when you say hello, who is this? You're saying all these things in your voice. They're recording that and they can use that against you later. They can, I mean, think about, so in my DaVinci Resolve, my video editing software, I can, with what I have already, I can go in and say like I have a space where something doesn't sound right. I can go in and type what I said and then have it generate my own voice with the software because I have enough of my own voice in there. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, you can tell. But I mean, at the end of the day, not really. So why are they going to start like, Mom, it's me. I need you to send me $10,000. You know what I mean? Karen says, I don't like to talk on the phone. I answered the phone for 40 plus years, customer service, basically. Yeah, I remember I left the customer service job and went to another insurance company where I didn't have to answer the phone. And one of the hardest parts about that is answering the phone and being available to answer the phone was so ingrained in my brain. I would be sitting there working, and then in my brain go, I haven't gotten a phone call in a while. And the panic would set in for a split second. I mean, I realized I don't work that job anymore. Just the PTSD of answering the phone all the time, I'd take thousands of calls a week. It was ridiculous. It's really quite ridiculous. Shauna says, keto chow made daily now with one hand. Well, you are killing the game. And Reese's Cluttered Kitchen said, last night I saw a PhD version of macaroni and cheese in a box. It was $7 for that little box. I want to try, but so where did you see that, Risa? Because Perfect Keto at one point sold boxed mac and cheese. They no longer sell that mac and cheese. I'm curious to where you saw that and what's the name of it, because I want to try. I want to see that because I really liked the perfect keto stuff. We still have a couple boxes in our pantry, and Jerry had sent us some too. So I'm just curious to know what you saw, where you saw it, because that'd be something that we would be interested in. I'm kind of curious. It was $7 a box. I think it was $7. You could get it as low as like $5 a box if you bought them in bulk. You bought like 6 or 12 boxes, so it wasn't cheap necessarily. But I'm curious to know what it was and where you found it because I want to see. I want to know. Yeah, and Evelyn is asking Shauna how long she's going to be the one arm bandit. And Shauna says, I can partially use arm elbow down, not much. PT will start in a few weeks, not healed yet, but no surgery, no time limit given. Oh my goodness. Risa says maybe their ingredients are a bit more expensive than the normal blue box, but not much more expensive. No one in our area can afford that. I'm curious to what brand that was. Let's see. What store were you at, Risa? I can look at their website and look and see. Let's see. Evelyn said a new gas station opened by us. All the other gas stations were competing during their grand opening. We had cheap gas for weeks. Still, I love that. Well, a Wawa is about to open in Brownsburg. We're about to get a Wawa gas station in Brownsburg. It's kind of out of us. We wouldn't go to that one very much because it's kind of out of the way. But I mean, there's already a bunch of gas stations in that line, in that street right there, kind of where they all are. There was like 3 or 4 gas stations. Kind of where we are right now is kind of a gas station. There's like a speedway right down the street from us, but towards the back of our neighborhood, there's going to be more gas stations. They're going to be putting a gas station at the Meyer when that opens up. So I'm curious to see how that's going to be. And Brian says, isn't it interesting? A lot of times they're willing to take that hit just to compete for a little bit. I think they're willing to take a little of a profit loss just for a short amount of time because gas stations don't make money on gas. They only make money on the stuff inside. So not just, they don't make, they make money, but this like, not as much money as they make on all the stuff in the inside. Um, Evelyn said, injured at the shoulder, right? Broke my elbow just after my first daughter was born. She learned how to move so that I could pick her up one handed. Oh, Thomas is in the house. Good morning, Thomas. I'm glad to see you, my friend. He says, just came all the way from Mitch's channel, a long way. Everybody follow Thomas. He's got a great channel. He does these good talks all the time. I come in and hang out and hear what he has to say during the mornings when I'm doing things. I love his channel. He's great. Thomas is a lot of fun. I need to get on his channel eventually. I've been on there for a short time before, but I need to get over to his channel and I try to talk in Mitch's chat, but his chat's very busy and very fast going. So yeah. Shauna says it's the proximal humerus fracture just below the ball of the shoulder. Oh my goodness. And Risa says it has been 6 years since surgery and I have to lift heavy boxes for work. I think they actually help me recover. Yeah, I think really like just strengthening things again is going to be the best thing for you. The Pharaoh grandma is in the house. I saw a little video of yours the other. I think that Amy made. Pretty awesome. Shauna says currently laying on forearm isn't good. All bruised, super tender. You need to be safe. You need to stop hurting my friend, Shauna. Karen said, I retired for 1.5 years and went back to work part time in January. Retirement money is not all that, but I am a social person. I found out that, yeah, just being here all the time is kind of difficult for me. That's why I do these lives. That helps a lot. I go to Costco, I go shopping, go to the grocery store and all that stuff. Risa says, I think my supermarket should pay much better. Many workers are low income families. They should feed them on a meal break. They did during the pandemic. It was awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that companies did during the pandemic that they like during the pandemic, they weren't really caring about like how much time you took off from work. They were like sick days were not a thing anymore. But I think like, like if you're sick, you're sick. I don't think you should be, but everyone's like, well, the people will abuse the system. So what? We should care more about people than profits. And Jeremiah says, I've never really liked talking on the phone. It's easy for me not to answer calls. And Risa doesn't like phone calls. I worked phones for so long. I would rather just text someone instead of talking. I sometimes just calling is so much easier. Shirley B is in the house. Good morning, Shirley. Are you new here? I'm glad to see if you are. Shirley says, can I ask a question? So I'm 70, keto for 5 years. Grown kids don't come often at all. I am alone. Son brought 3 boxes of donuts, tried to get me to eat. I did not. He took them home. So what's the question? I would say that you did the right thing. If you didn't want to eat the donuts, don't eat the donuts. And I think that's, I mean, it is kind of shitty when kids like, because our kids do that to us too. They're like, oh, we brought over this kind of cobbler and ice cream. Do you want some? Of course we do, but will we? Maybe. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, ugh. Evelyn said, I used to answer a 30-line phone for 3 companies tied together. I excelled at it and loved it. Jeremiah says, I agree with the politicians getting pay cuts if the budget is not balanced, but it's a mixed thought. If politicians take pay cut, they are likely take more kickbacks and use stocks to. Well, I mean, they're going to do whatever they can do anyway. I think we should be limiting what their incomes can be, and then they'll have like shadow things, or it'll be like their spouses, or it'll be all that weird stuff. You know what I mean? It's just I don't think there is a complete fix for any of it. As long as they're taking care of us, if we were taken care of as a society, I wouldn't care if they got rich. If we were taken care of, if the social services were fully funded and people had full access to everything that they need, I wouldn't care if they're making millions of dollars on $100,000 a year salary. I wouldn't care. But they're doing it and we're getting the shaft. Risa says, Dustin, I saw it at my supermarket. It was a big name, not Kraft. Forgot what the company was. I have to look again tonight, and I'll let you know what the name brand is. Shirley says, question, sorry. Why is it that grown kids say they are broke and cry wolf, and then they have $500,000 homes and travel, etc.? Well, I think that a lot of people kind of become house poor. They get into a house they truly can't afford, and people get itchy and they want to go places, and they're willing to do things like putting their expenses on credit cards or whatever it takes, right? So I don't know. Like our kids do that. Like, we don't have money. We're trying to save money. Then they're like, we're going to Tennessee, or we're going to go do this, or we're going there, we're going to do that. It's like, you don't have money to do that. You're saving for a house, or you're not paying us to take care of your kid, or whatever. It's like, or if we're taking care of your kid, allow us to do things like go out of town with her so we can do stuff, like instead of like landlocking us into, you know what I mean? Like landlocking us from being able to do stuff. Because this summer we could have went to Florida. We could have done different things like that with the girl. We could leave on Monday, come back on Thursday, and be gone for a couple of days, you know what I mean? And be out of town. But they're like, but they'll go out of town and leave her with us. It's weird. Coffee is the best. So Risa says she works at ShopRite in New Jersey. I'm going to look this up. Let's see if I can see ShopRite. Let's see. I don't like that. Get away from that. There we go. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at the stuff here to see. You said it looked at it was in a blue box like the other mac and cheese. Let me see if I can find something here. Mm. Said it was $7 a box. I'm gonna sort this by price. Let's see. What can I see here? Yeah, I'm looking to see. That's 69 cents. That's not it. Interesting. I'm not finding anything. Let's see. It might be Kaizon's, Kaizozn, I think. Ooh, Skinny Mac? Mac variety. Oh, that looks interesting. What is this? That's interesting. There's a product called Skinny Mac Velvety Cheddar. I'm just trying to find it to see if I can see. I'm gonna be able to see an up close version of the ingredients and stuff. Two and a half servings. Each serving is 7 total carbs. Dietary fibers 2. So in theory, net carbs 5 net carbs, 3 grams of protein. Let's see ingredients. It's skinny fettuccine, konjac, tapioca, oat powder, edamame, protein, quinoa, beta carotene. That's interesting. Very interesting. Keto friendly. I don't know. You have to let me know what that is, Risa. I'm just curious to know. Brian says political jobs should have term limits. It should never intend to be a profession. And I think even if it's a profession, like even if you can stay in as long as you're popular or whatever, like you should be required to hit certain benchmarks. You should be required, like every job has benchmarks. Like you can't work in an office job and not have benchmarks. Did you answer enough phone calls? Did you work enough claims? Did you make enough payments? Did you do this, that, and the other? Did you have a good ratio of like good calls versus bad calls? It's all that kind of stuff. I think, how often were you over budget? Like, I don't know. Janet from another planet is in the house. Good morning, my friend. Glad to see you, Janet. Glad to see you. And Evelyn said they may be house broke. You don't have money to spend because it's all tied up in their homes, larger purchases, travel, And I think people kind of get stuck in travel. Like they'll do traveling because they have to, or I don't know. Like, I mean, we went to Disney and spent a lot of money on Disney we shouldn't have, but we did anyway. And Thomas is telling Risa that he also lives in New Jersey. I worked at ShopRite right before my foot issue. Now I work at Quick Check by my apartment. And Risa says, I searched the store app for the macaroni and cheese. I didn't see it. I will check the shelf and take a picture of it and let you know. Fantastic. I love that. Evelyn said, I made strawberry or keto strawberry rhubarb. Never touched another man's rhubarb. Cake yesterday. It's gone. Kids liked it too. I love that. Later, Karen. Glad to see you. And Janet says that people should stop thinking that others should pay their way. I think that there shouldn't be an entitlement, but I think as a society, we should take care of each other. As a society, we should make sure that everyone is taken care of. I don't think it should be an entitlement mentality. I don't think people should, I think what we should take care of people. We shouldn't have hungry people. We shouldn't have hungry kids. We shouldn't have, programs that leave people out. I think everybody should make sure everybody should have a baseline of what's taken care of. At least a common human decency level. And I'm not trying to say that everybody should, whatever. I mean, I know there's a lot of talk of UBI, of universal basic income and that kind of stuff. And as things like AI kind of starts to take over, will we see that? I just think that we are all human. We're all in this together, and we should be making sure that we're all taking care of each other. If we're a society that's 30, 40 trillion dollars in debt, people should be taken care of. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, everybody should be taken care of. If we're $40 trillion in debt, that should mean that nobody is left behind. Should there be rules and guidelines in place and making sure that you're at least trying to get a job? And sure, yes, everybody should be trying to work. But also, we have to remember that a lot of people on these benefits are working, but they're working at the kind of jobs that they can get that don't pay enough. How many Walmart employees are on these benefits? Walmart doesn't pay enough. And if a company should have to chip in on that, if a company is going to hire people and not give them enough hours or pay them enough to where they need to be on some kind of benefit package, then Walmart should be paying for a lot of that benefit package, right? If a company knowingly hires a good, and we're talking not just teenagers, we're talking full grown adults who work at Walmart, cashiers, stockers, all these people who work at Walmart should be making enough money to at least be able to afford an apartment, food. Doesn't mean they need to be going on trips or buying handbags, but they should be able to afford the bare minimum, an apartment, a car, something they'd be able to get to and from work. I just think that we're in a society now where, you know, there's no reason we shouldn't be taking care of each other. That's just how I look at it. I know not everybody agrees with me. I get it. I mean, and again, and I get it. It's an entitlement thing. I think, should we have entitlement? No, but we should also be ensuring that our neighbors are taken care of. We should ensure that, you know, that homeless people aren't dying. That, we should be taking care of each other because there's always going to be people who need help. You may never know. It might be you someday. I've been in that situation when I was growing up. My mom needed help. My mom needed social services. I remember getting help from all kinds of places. My mom we would get help at Christmas time. We would get help from like St. Vincent de Paul. We would get help from the Lions Club. We would get help from all these things. And my mom was on food stamps, and we shopped at Aldi before it was cool. My mom did everything she could for us, and I think my mom had her own set of issues. And I mean, not that it's anybody's business, but I mean, my mom had a lot of problems. But she was a mom, and she took care of my brother and I, and she made do with what she got. She was one of the best savers I'd ever known, like being able to make sure my brother and I got what we needed. I just don't understand the idea that we're one of the richest nations in the world with some of the biggest debt, and yet we don't want to take care of our fellow people. We should be making sure we're taking care of humans before profit, before anything. I just think we should just be, it shouldn't be a matter of entitlement. It just should be something that we do. And it's not a political stance by me. And I'm not even a religious person. But I just think I mean, what else do we have? We have each other. That's it. And as a taxpayer, I've paid taxes my whole life. And if we're $40 trillion in debt, I would rather see them cut spending in a lot of other places before they cut people's health care, before they cut social services. Why are we cutting out PBS? Why are we cutting out all these things? I don't understand that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Basic human decency should be just the bare minimum. And Target Prime Ribs Thomas says, I quit there because of my foot issues. They wouldn't let me wear my proper shoe for my foot. I needed the job badly after my mom died, so I followed their rules. So in bad shoes for me, I walked 2 miles. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry about that. Gabrielle Paul's mom says, once upon a time, retail paid a living wage. My aunt worked at Corvette. They closed in the 70s. She still gets a check each month from that union. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Reese said it wasn't the Kaizen. I didn't see I did see the Skinny Mac too. That'd be nice to see, because I mean, just sometimes having something quick and easy like a box thing of something is all you need. Well, I think, like, is it a profession? It's an appointment by the people. That people should come first. If you're elected by the people, you should be taking care of the people first. And it's not a hard concept to me. I mean, at least that's how I look at it. And I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I don't expect everybody to think, what's whatever. I mean, everybody's gonna have their own opinions, and that's perfectly fine. That's what I want here. I want to be able to talk about it. I don't want people to get angry. I don't want people to get mad. I don't want people to go away or not talk to me anymore just because I have a different opinion than you in certain aspects of things. Because, like I said, this is my opinion today. My opinion could change tomorrow. How I look at things could change tomorrow. But I've grown up poor, just like I've grown up fat. How I understand being fat, and I understand being poor. And Thomas says, it did cause some issues, including another reason I had to get my toes amputated. The first two being diabetes and neuropathy. I can't do anything about it, but the bad shoe and the long walks. Oh my goodness gracious. And Reese is telling Sherry that he's looking for the box mac and cheese that she saw at her work last night. I couldn't remember what brand it was. It was $7 a box. I'll look again tonight and write it down. Oh, I'm excited for that. And John says, you're still here. Went to church and returned home to find the live still going. Dustin, how's your head feel? My head feels a lot better. It's nice. It doesn't feel so bad. I've got caffeine, ibuprofen, electrolytes. So we'll see how I feel when I'm done here. I'm probably going to go for another about 10 minutes maybe, because I've got this linking over to Coach Bronson and Coach Nat. Like I try to do when I'm setting this up, if their stuff is ready to go, I set it up to go over there because I like to go over about 3 hours if I'm doing okay. And Brian says, "You, if you are able to work, you need to work." And I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I think everybody should find a job, but we also understand that there are not enough jobs for everybody in this country. There are not enough jobs, not enough good paying jobs for everybody in this company or country. And, we have, you know, we just got to make sure we do what we can do. And anybody that needs help should get it. It's like, I'm not an expert either to take care, it's like not expect other to take care of you. Now, if you are not able to work, then yes, assistance should be there. Not if you're able to work. I mean, but at the same time, like, I think, regardless, there's going to be people who can't work, even if they are able to work. We understand how humans are. That's like we have a homeless population, not because they can't afford a house. A lot of the homeless people are there because they can't function in society the way society is. Some people just can't function in society and they just live on the outskirts. It doesn't mean they're less than. That doesn't mean that, that we shouldn't try to take care of them. Whether it's, substance abuse or, coming back from being in the military and not being able to handle life anymore outside of the military. There's all kinds of reasons why people are homeless, unhoused, however you want to call it. But I just think that these days we're not very understanding. I think we should err on the side of help first. And, and I think the goal should be to get people on their feet. That's one of the things that's always bothered me about the social benefits. Say you are a person who's on social benefits, and also you figure this, like, you're a single parent with kids, right? Whether you're a man, female, whatever, you have kids and you have to take care of those kids. They're your responsibility. Daycare costs an arm and a leg. Whether it's before school, after school care, like a person has a job, and usually that job is somewhere in the 9 to 5 range, but not always. It's usually, but regardless of the range, that's school hours fall within that range. Like the parent needs to be at school or at work before school starts, and they're at work long after school gets out. So there's a disconnect with our society that, the kids are just there to fend for themselves. Or if you have the money, then you're paying, like I worked with a woman. Her husband made basically worked to pay bills. She worked for insurance and childcare. Like basically everything she made at work went to childcare, and then they had the insurance because her husband was a contractor. So he didn't get insurance through work because he was a contractor. So she got insurance for him and the kids, and she paid for the child care. So she went to work just to pay for child care and have insurance. And he worked and paid all the bills and all that stuff. Society is really out of whack these days. Like it takes, long gone. We talk about we want to make America great again. We say that, but I don't think we really do. I think we want to look back with rose-colored glasses, and we want to see things that how they weren't to begin with. We've gotten to a situation where, everybody in the household has to work to make it work. I mean, kids can't even move out anymore because they can't afford to move out on their own unless they're going to be, poor, poor, whatever they're going to be. They're going to, everything they make goes to whatever. Basically anymore, most of the time you're just you're paying everything to have a place to sleep and get to and from work. You're not even really enjoying life anymore. I think we should take care of each other. I think we should have programs in place that don't just kick off. Like if you're a person on benefits and you're trying to find and get a job, and you can use those benefits and you can try to get an education, and you're trying to do these things to better yourself for society, then as the different things fall into place, say like you get to where you get a job. I don't think benefits should stop as soon as you get the job because you haven't even got a chance to get a foothold yet. Because you have to remember that all those benefits are covering more than what you are paying would probably be, covering a lot. And then everything is going to come fall on you, and then you're not probably making enough to cover all of it right away. So I think like if you once you get somebody back on their feet, I think within a year, then you should start like within a year, the benefits should probably be good to go at a year. So the first month or so, they start to decline. Maybe first month or two, get you settled in, make sure the job is going to stick. You're going to be a good fit for the job, and you're not just going to be back on assistance full time in a matter of weeks. So make sure things working, and then start to slowly pull the benefits back as they're able to gain footing. I think we just cut people loose like that, and it doesn't help anybody. And I think that right there is also a thing because if you're somebody that say you don't have a job and you've got kids and you're making enough on assistance to live an adequate life, I would never say it's comfortable. Like you're living in kind of like a rent controlled apartment and you have enough for groceries and a roof over your head. You're not really going out to dinner all the time. You're not really going on vacations or anything like that, but you are sleeping under a roof at night. You maybe have air conditioning and whatever, depending where you live. I think it's mandatory, but you have, a place to live and your kids have a place to live and they have their bellies full. I think a lot of times people are terrified to try to go and get work because as soon as that starts, then the struggle begins again and the benefits just stop. So I think we need to really rethink how we handle that type of stuff. If we really want people to be productive members of society, we can't just cut them loose at the first sign they have a job. I just feel like we're just we so short-sighted with things. And I get it. A lot of people just don't see the things the way that I do. And most people don't see things how I do. Like I'm, yeah. Bride's Business says we have a trillion annually for the NDAA. No one here should be hungry or homeless. We have the money. We are harming ourselves. I think like the real thing is like we're always gonna have homeless. There's always gonna be people who don't have a place because that's just how humans work. There's always gonna be people who don't want to fit into society. That's always gonna be, but it shouldn't be total. It shouldn't be encampments. We shouldn't have sidewalks overrun. We shouldn't have the way that it is now. And I think in the 90s, we shut down a lot of the state hospitals, the state-run mental hospitals, and a lot of people were released. And I think that created a big number of homeless people. Now, I mean, I know the hospital that we had here is a terrifying place. I mean, there were the horror stories coming out of that place. Probably makes being homeless seem so much better, but I don't know. And Brian says, why can they afford to get tattoos but can't afford to eat? Need to have your priorities, not expect others. Well, I think we're looking at the exception, not the rule. I think, and you don't even know if they paid for those tattoos. You know what I mean? Like my brother has tattoos and he's traded tires for them. He had like some tires and traded them for somebody for some tattoos. He didn't pay for them. I think you got to look at that. Like you have to look at it, you have to look at things from a perspective that not everything is always as it seems. I look at the poverty level. Think of all the people who spend all kinds of money on beer and cigarettes and wine and vape pens and all these things where they could have saved that money and been better off, but they just don't. Why? Because humans are weird. We don't do those things. We go, I mean, everybody wants that release. Everybody wants that like that relaxation when they get home from work. They want to have a beer, they want to do whatever. I mean, that's how I was with food. I was always been more into food than I was alcohol. But, I think we spend a lot of time working on and being upset at the exception and not the rule, that it clouds our vision of what really would do the most good for our people. We get so upset at the worst cases that are very few and far between that we end up hurting those who truly need the benefits altogether. I think the people who abuse the system are such a small number, but they ruin it for everybody else. And we know that. We know that the bad apples ruin the bunch, right? But we as humans never figure that out. Like, okay, there's people out there who abuse the system. Of course. But for every person that's abusing the system, think of that my grandma was there, couldn't get food stamps, and she's 80 some years old, living on just Social Security. She had Medicaid, but she was always living in fear that if she had too much money in her bank account, they would cut off whatever she was getting. They would cut her Medicaid off. She was afraid, like, she had a used car. She had like a 92 or 97 like Honda little Civic or something like that. It was worn down, beat to crap. And she was like, and it got sold, we sold it for whatever, a couple $100 or whatever. She was so worried that they were going to cut her benefits off because she had that little bit of money in her bank account. Or if, I think that there's so much of that we get so caught up in the worst case scenarios that we don't think about the true meaning of what it is to help people. That's like, how can I put this in terms of this community? I can't think right now. But I just think we have to open ourselves up and understand that yes, there are going to be people who abuse the system, and we've got to try to weed that out. But that doesn't mean we shut the system down altogether. And I think that we should be looking at everybody. I mean, once you get to be I think, 65 years old, you shouldn't have to work anymore. We should be taking care of our elders no matter what. There's going to be people who are going to work into their 80s because that's what they want to do. They're able to do it. I don't think I'm ever going to see Social Security, and I'm 46 years old. I'm not eligible to retire currently till 2044. But do I think that that's going to be a thing? Probably not. They're going to raise the age of retirement to 72, 75, whatever, because when Social Security was implemented, the average life expectancy of a person was 62 or 63 years old or something like that. So making it 65, most people didn't live that long. And Risa says, I totally agree, Dustin. Government should care for the people who voted for you and for the people who are in your county or country. You should, you are the president of the United States. I mean, it's even bigger than the president because the president's nothing really more than a celebrity figurehead. I mean, if you really get down to it, all the nuts and bolts happen at the levels of the county, at the school board, the county, the districts, and all that stuff. That's where things really happen. And Thomas says, I'm slowly getting back into the workforce, but I'm still collecting, not ready for full time and need help. I think, we just have to be understanding. Not everybody is going to be able, because I think that the majority of people who are, overwhelming majority of people who are on social services work. It's not a overwhelming majority of people who are sitting at home who don't want to have jobs. And I think we miss the point. Is there a percentage of people who are at home and not working where they probably could work? 100%. But then out of that, how many people can't find jobs? There's always going to be a percentage. It's never zero. Just like there's always going to be fraud, there's always going to be people who take advantage of the system. Because again, that's human nature. But you do what you have to eliminate it. But you have to eliminate that the best you can without making it so hard for everybody else who is trying to do the right thing. Most people try to do the right thing. Have a good one, Josephine. I'm glad you were here. And Evelyn says, we are settling up our children to thrive. Our parents did not do that for us. I hope so. I hope so. And Tanya here asks a great question. Why does childcare cost so much when the employees paid to take care of them make minimum wage? I'm not sure exactly what they make, but it's a great question because I think that there is probably a high overhead when it comes to childcare. There's the building and all of those things that come into play. There's the insurance that comes into play that they're taking care of your kids. There's insurance involved. So I think that I don't know quite there's probably a lot of overhead and all that stuff. And and they can charge that because it's a necessity service. When a service is in high demand, they can charge what they want. Rebecca's here from South Africa. Good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I need to scroll through here really quick here. Let's see. Yeah, scroll through here real quick. So Rebecca says USA only has a 4% unemployment rate. Here in South Africa, we have between 30 and 40% unemployment. Now, the one thing to take note with that figure, and I don't know if South Africa is the same, but in the US, the unemployment rate is calculated based on those who are looking for work. There's always a number of people out there who are not looking for work, and I don't know if that's even if it's even calculated how that can be calculated. But yes, of everybody looking for work, USA has a 4% unemployment rate. But again, there's people out there who are not looking for work. Risa says, I'm 64 and a half and would love to retire, but probably won't be another couple of years. Full Social Security isn't until 67 now. I don't know if I can make that. That's crazy. And Rebecca, it's higher than 4%. Politicians make up lots of excuses to not count many people so they can pretend the numbers are better. Yeah, I think it is something like, but even if it's 10%, it's still not 30, 40%. I mean, even if the real number is, 15%, I mean, what's that say about our country as a whole where we're not making sure we have enough jobs? I don't know. But anyway, with that, Papa Carnivore just got here, but I'm about ready to say goodbye, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here with me today. Put up with me being late, with me having a headache, not feeling the greatest, putting up with me and my opinions. And I know I understand that most of you don't probably care what I have to say. I mean, at least to the point that, these opinions are mine and mine alone. And I don't expect any of you to change your minds. I don't expect any of you to shift gears and think how I think. I just think that we should be doing better. We should be taking care of each other. Like this community, we take care of each other. We listen. We're here to help any way we can. So many amazing people here in this community. And I just think that could translate so much better in the real world if we were just more open-minded and really truly wanted to help. Like I said, with a $40 trillion debt, not much of that's gone to our population. A lot of that's gone to inflating things, military contracts, paying for wars we're never going to get money back out of, all these things, making our politicians richer. But anyway, with that, I love all of you guys. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for, what's the word I'm thinking of? Thank you for humoring me in my weird way of looking at the world. But I appreciate each and every one of you. You will be transferred over to, if you so choose, over to Coach Nat and Coach Bronson. Say hello from me. Again, thank you all so very much. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday. All right, everybody? And here come the credits.